Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was trained by Archer from Fate/Stay Night Part 1. Before we start, please go support Aaron Chrono54 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Hyoudou Issei was a normal 15-year-old boy who only had to worry about making it through the year and enjoying his vacations until a man with white hair and red clothes appeared in his dreams in a world of unlimited swords. Chapter 1. Hyoudou Issei was a 15-year-old student at Ko Academy. He was a very negatively known student, known for having excessive lust and also for spying on many girls with his friends Matsuda and Motohama. The young man had brown hair and an acceptable body, a body that was neither weak nor strong normal. Today was the last day of exams, my vacation is almost here, I say. The young man was very happy after studying hard to avoid repeating the year and embarrassing his parents, and he also focused a lot on maintaining a balance between having fun and studying. The 15-year-old teenager was tired and quickly fell asleep. Hyoudou fell asleep very quickly. He fell asleep so quickly that he even thought it was strange, since he felt like he was no longer in his bed in the next second and was sleeping on the rocks. He was in a bright place, and also seemed to be in a different place than his room. What the hell is this place? I say. Issei ran in panic through the place that had giant gears in the sky and a landscape with dry land and thousands of swords stuck in the ground. That place seemed to have more than thousands, to tell the truth, but the panic did not allow him to think properly. Where am I? I say. The young man continued running desperately for a few more minutes until he found a man with dark skin and white hair. This man was wearing a type of red clothing combined with a black shirt. It seems that the time has finally come for us to meet. The brown-haired teenager was panicking in front of that man. He was gathering all the courage he had to be able to talk to this white-haired stranger. You kidnapped me here? Take me home, I say. The white-haired man just laughed at the thought of having company in this place for some time. A loneliness of several years would now be filled with this boy until he was still alive. I'll explain a few things to you and then I'll get you out of here. The man hadn't given himself a name, but had given himself the title Archer, or if it was translated, the white-haired man also explained about this mental world and also about what sacred gears were, supernatural things and various things for the understanding of the boy in front of him. You can escape from here without training with me, but you'll either die or be enslaved for being weak with a strong power. Archer. I'll have to train then. I hope you teach me everything you can learn, I say. Hyoudou knelt on the ground as he begged to train. He was desperate to train when he thought about the risk he could put his parents in if he didn't have enough power and strength to protect them after awakening the sacred gear called Unlimited Blade Works. That's what it's called. Archer. Archer accelerated Issei's brain power so that the time he spent in the mental world was greater than the time he spent outside the home. The brown-haired young man would experience 2 weeks of intense training in one night. The first part of the training was to awaken the magical power that was deep within that brown-haired teenager. The methods were extreme and made him scream in pain due to the little time they had. What a pain! I'm going to die! I did. Hyoudou wanted to give up when he experienced that intense pain, but he remembered his parents and also thought about the danger they might be in, and changed his mind the moment he thought about such a thing. The second part of the training was to exert magical power to form swords. The young man was carefully learning to do this with extreme methods of slapping and punching to have more pressure. This is Spartan training, crazy training, I say. Continue, Archer. The third part of the training was training how to use swords and how quickly they could be used in a fight. Archer was fighting him and killing him over and over again until he learned how to fight skillfully against someone stronger or of the same level. I think it's been 5 days in this world, 5 days of pure pain and torture, I say. He's being reshaped into someone who belongs to the supernatural and a true magician. Archer. Archer was also teaching Issei how to live in the magic world, teaching him to forget the mentality he learned in normal society and adapt to the world of magic and fantasy he lived in life before being sealed in this sacred gear. The fourth part was training how to use the bow and arrow. The brown-haired young man learned 12 hours of bow and 12 hours of sword. The training was heavier now that he was in the last week in which he was supposed to learn something. I need to survive. I need to fight to live another day. Issei. Hyoudou continued to be easily killed by the archer, but now there was a difference between being able to hold on for a few seconds and then a few minutes. He was able to fight properly even though he was a beginner. The 2 weeks are up. Archer. Thanks for the training, sensei. Issei. Issei only had the deepest gratitude towards that man who had taught him so much, had taught him how to survive in this dark and gloomy world that was magical and the supernatural. The young man woke up at 8 a.m. the next day with all the memories of what he lived in that place of infinite swords. I don't accept my current level of strength. Issei. Issei was contemplating his current level of strength and came to the conclusion that he couldn't just accept receiving the standard training and that he would have to push himself harder. He would have to fight harder to become even more powerful, and he needed a direction to follow. I recommend you find monsters to fight and strengthen yourself. Archer. Won't I die if I hunt for dangerous creatures? Issei. You're going to die anyway if you don't get stronger, so you'd better run after your only chance at life. Archer. Help me search for signs of the supernatural in the investigation and a monster that's within my level. Issei. The two spent several hours searching the computer for news that could lead to a supernatural monster, and found one that seemed quite interesting that was on the other side of Japan. Several victims of an alleged wild animal attack. Issei. They mistook it for a dangerous beast because they had no other clues, but that's a bit different from a wild beast, and also from the modus operandi. Archer. This monster must not be that strong to have been seen by someone who escaped with at least a lot of injuries. Issei. It must be at least one class lower, on the same level as yours. Archer. How am I going to get to the other side of Japan to catch this monster? Issei. Strengthening your body. Strengthening will greatly increase your movement speed, making it at least faster than a car. A different kind of training. Archer. Issei was thinking of replicating that, but then he thought it could be used to train his stamina, and so he downloaded the cities he had to pass through into his flip-flop cell phone and went faster than a car to the other side of Japan. The young man told his parents that he was going to an event that could guarantee him a college scholarship, and so he promised them he would always stay in touch to show them where he was. I really liked my parents. Issei. The brown-haired teenager was traveling very fast and took a break of several hours to hunt with his bow in search of food and also to drink water. The young man did not stop sleeping, he only stopped to do his needs, eat and drink. The journey took only 2 days to the other side of Japan, where evidence of the creature was found. Archer's young apprentice slept in the neighboring city before proceeding to the site of his investigation. We need to be in top condition for battle. Archer. It's my first real fight. Issei. The young man slept peacefully while thinking about what the fight would be like and the information he received from his master. The probability that it was a yokai or a rogue demon could be high. The rest lasted 8 hours, and the young man settled into the forest after finding a beautiful place to sleep during the day. He wanted to sleep during the day so he could wake up at nightfall because that was the time the beast would wake up to hunt humans and animals. Keep your senses at their peak. One mistake and your death is guaranteed. Archer. I'll stay focused. Issei. The brown-haired boy was very focused on walking through the abandoned houses in the area where the creature was attacking. The monster focused on attacking low-income and undeveloped areas because they were easier to hunt, and also because they had less focus on investigations. This guy's hunting method is clever, so he's a monster with a conscience and intelligence. Archer. I hope it's a rogue demon, since a yokai is harder to kill from what you told me. Issei. I hope so too. Archer. The little monster hunter's senses were sharp as he held his small short swords in his hands. He was using Roman gladius as weapons for this moment. Aid. A child's voice could be heard by the boy who was advancing at great speed after hearing the ferocious roar of a type of monster he did not know. This roar was very similar to that of a lion, although it was different in some aspects. Aid. The boy screamed for help while some kind of feline monster was about to attack him with its powerful claws. It was about to tear him apart with just one blow of its claws and was intercepted by one of Issei's swords, which soon broke when I felt the strength of that monster. A renegade demon with lion-like features after being deformed for betraying his master. Archer. The Hyoudou was looking at that demon that had sharp feline eyes, golden skin and a mane on his head that was being swayed by the wind. The size of this demon was 3 meters and it was quite intimidating when you saw those claws and also his sharp teeth. You'll be the first of many I'll exorcise. I say. The brown-haired youth savored that the demon in front of him understood his phrase and so he ran towards him to attack him. The broken glaive had reformed and was attacking vertically from top to bottom while the monster's sharp right claw collided as if it were a sword. The glaive in his other hand attacked and his left claw had moved to intercept the blow the young man had given him. A high-speed punching duel had begun with the small hunter trying to find an opening with each blow each of his glaives gave. Using different types of techniques, and the monster in front of him tried to crush him. This thing is too strong, I can't fight it head-on. I say. Hyoudou realized that he couldn't fight head-on after analyzing the strength between him and his opponent. The rogue demon had more strength and speed in his attacks. His attacks were also more powerful. A claw strike nearly managed to hit him and ripped part of his shirt as if it were the claw of a powerful jaguar that had almost pierced his body. The force of that monster broke his weapon several times and got him into trouble too, and there was the fact that he was thrown a few steps back in blows that the beast exerted with a force beyond normal. Delicious food, powerful food! Demon. The demon was eager to devour Issei, seeing that strength, and also the magical power he had. The brown-haired youth felt pressured afterwards and walked away with the camouflage of dusk after using the monster's strength to be thrown several steps back. It won't be possible to win fairly, but I'm glad we made our preparations in case it was a demon. I say. Let's start fighting like crazy. Archer. The sensei and the student were laughing as they returned to combat after a few seconds and reorganized. The young man dematerialized his gladius and made smaller swords that he had learned to form after some studies with his teacher and research on the internet. Come to me, demon. The demon was very eager to eat the flesh of the Hyoudou, who was not willing to simply be devoured, and so he began to throw several small blades as if they were throwing knives at that monster. The blades were going at a very high throwing speed and in large numbers. Your body aches from being forced to create multiple weapons every second. Archer. It's better for my body to hurt than to lose my life. I say. The beast had the speed and reflexes to dodge such swords, and so it simply moved forward while preparing the final blow for that little man. The rain of swords could not keep up with the superhuman speed of that monster with lion-like features. Turn the cut meat over. Demon. The monster had arrived in front of Issei, who didn't panic and didn't materialize another small blade to throw after missing countless times and not hitting even once. The young man already had something in his hand that looked like a liquid that made the being come forward. Scream in danger. I heard cats really like water. I brought a special one for the hell kitty to bathe in. I say. The holy water that was in Issei's hand was thrown at the demon, who would attack with that powerful claw without having reflexes to escape from it, since the brown-haired young man had accepted to receive an almost fatal attack and be thrown against the wall of an abandoned house to create that opportunity. Ah! Demon! The monster struggled in pain as its skin burned. Issei's body had a few broken ribs after being thrown forcefully against a wall and breaking it as he lay among the rubble of destruction. I have to seize this opportunity even though my bones are broken and I'm in a lot of pain. I say. The boy moved forward quickly while the demon was in great pain and stabbed his 2 spires into his neck to deliver the final blow without him realizing it, because the sacred element was acting at a very high level against a low-level demon. Let's clean up the place and then we'll rest. Archer. The little wizard of Ko had carried the creature's body to a place that could have been its lair and was amazed at the things it had in that place, such as skulls of people of different ages, remains of dead flesh, and also money and some artifacts that the monster had caught. Monsters always have some kind of exotic artifact they can steal from themselves or their victims. The money you got here is a relief for your bills and a way to help your parents. Archer. Yes. I say. Hyoudou burned almost everything when he took his things out of the ditch, and then went to sleep in another forest. The young man was very tired after that. His hands were tingling a lot, his legs hurt from having to bear the pressure of the blows and not giving in, and his body was badly hurt due to the broken ribs in the blow that threw him. His chest also had an ugly claw wound and his condition was extremely tired and hurt even if he was not meant to die. I'm going to sleep soon, I say. The brown-haired youth slept to gain more strength and returned home on the bullet train, since his condition did not allow him to use his power to the fullest, and so he took advantage of the time on the train to heal and undergo treatment to hunt the next beast in his training. He used the money he earned from the beast's lair to buy new clothes, pay for a hospital bill, and also to help his parents with their household bills. They were both overjoyed when the young man came up with the excuse that he had become a historian's assistant, and now wanted to become an archaeologist with his beloved teacher Mia. Our son is becoming a man, Goro. He doesn't talk about breasts anymore and has a mature attitude. Mickey. The two of them were crying with joy while the teenager just walked up the stairs very embarrassed to see such a scene and let his teacher also see such a scene that made him a little embarrassed. Chapter 2, Training Against Yokais. Issei was resting in his bed while he digested everything that he had won and fought against a low-level renegade demon, and the young man was eager to fight again and had something else in his mind. It seems that the fight really has a spirit, Archer. I want to be stronger, strong enough to kill that monster with one blow. Issei. I believe that one day you will really be stronger than that monster, much stronger. Archer. Let's look for more clues for our next training session. Issei. The young man with brown hair sat down at his computer table and began to research news on various sites, or the time to find a rather interesting story was a few hours at least, because it was difficult to find a case of supernatural happening in the human world. As people of a certain villarejo are summoned from tempo to tempos. Archer. O villarejo seems to suffer certain disasters when given a certain time. Issei. Issei packed his bag excitedly when he thought about going to fight again, or the young man was thinking that it would be more of a fight than he would have his fervent blood, that he would be encouraged to fight more strongly. Are you back to work? Although she was a woman with brown hair who had certain similarities as a young man, that person was Miki Hyoudou, Issei's mother and one of the people most dear to him. A very good opportunity appears, you will earn a lot of money if it is certain. Issei. Go safely and Volti or give me permission. Miki. Oh, Hyoudou only carried his backpack as he ran at high speed and furtively headed towards Villarejo. The trip would last just one day each time, more than a few hours stop to eat and drink water. Young people also choose to rest for a few hours to enter a peak state to visit the place during the day and stay awake at night to assimilate the monster while conversing with the inhabitants of the place. The inhabitants seem to be half alive. Issei. We must be half dying after being devastated by a beast. Archer. The teenager quickly found a vehicle that should have been a man who knew something about Villarejo and began to ask some questions to identify the monster as Archer's knowledge. You are a researcher sent to deal with two problems in your neighborhood, and you might know about the situation of the place in which you live? Issei. The old dream for that little rapacious one with surprise and also with a lack of hope, because all those who see us investigate will also succumb or flee with great terror because none of them can see more. You will lose your time in another place. This village is Amaldacoida and there is nothing more you can do besides losing your life by continuing to poke your nose into the wrong place, Velho. It really seems like something is happening here. Issei. It's been happening since I was born in this place and I've been there for more than 50 years. A damn thing that always takes people away and it's kind of like it's lasted so long. Velho. This thing is about to happen. Issei. Neo a de sua canta. Velho. Issei continued to insist on that one more thing and discovered that at night it would be a Kalhida of the monster that was coming to feed on human beings again. Or the young man was happy when he got ready. The night went by in a few hours and the young man with brown hair was waiting for that monster to appear. The creature only saw his face appear after more than half of the night, and the entire life was tremendous when such an aberration was stepping hard on the walk. Aquilo is an Oni, a yokai that has very brutal force and a terrifying fighting power that is also for the Fracasta Especie, a Oni that can be more than 5 meters high, also Pashri a Pele that has some difficulty in passing and extremely hard bones, a blow capable of demolishing a property. Archer. Oh, Hyoudou was frightened when he saw that enormous 5-meter beast that looked like a deformed human. That figure had a huge mouth and pointed teeth that seemed to bite hard things. In front of him he showed a crazy face and had long hair. The teenager quickly moved at high speed to give a certain move in an artery of the monster's fish with his glad hands to kill with just one blow. Homemzen Hotolo. Oni. The monster was struck by the horror of the little hero's sight when his little swords, the gladiators, were broken and hit with all his strength in the body of a powerful yokai that barely had a powerful and fast one in the direction of the upper part of his body. What? Issei. The only thing Issei guessed right was that he might be played for a few meters, or the monster was following him as the rapacious materialized the short, white swords that his master used and that he had now learned to copy. Hesitor is equal to your death, so it is better to use all the means you can to overcome this fight. Archer. You will save these people. Issei. The young man with brown hair quickly moved at high speed with his hair in a fast run while he was easily accompanying him. With a short sword he moved to evade with a cut challenge in the direction of the leg of the monster that barely got up at high speed and tried to take a big step. A little insect should barely eat food. You eat double leaves with the effort you are making. Oni. Oh, Hyoudou quickly dodged at the last minute, but lost his balance at the moment when Oni's footstep began to tremble strongly, and he felt he lost his posture and fell because he was not prepared. The difference between absurd people. Issei. The teenager quickly tried to regain his balance, but the demon of a footfall was even more powerful than it created gusts, and the balance was even more lost, and he suddenly fell as soon as the monster approached at high speed for a blow. Mora. Oni. Or he faltered in a slow way that seemed to be a more primitive method of failure, as he attacked with a powerful punch in the direction of a young man who pulled to the other side so as not to be knocked out by the blow. You won't escape. Oni. The yokai quickly grabbed Issei's hair, which was very long, hair cut similar to that of his father, and was sure to deliver several blows in a row, the blows that were also very powerful to crush the flesh and break the bones of the young man so that he could not resist being devoured. The rapacious cry of the door first is when he holds a lot of blood and several of his bones will appear gusts, or second Soko Fez as some of the long bones are ready to break, and the third breaks several of his bones as soon as his strength is exhausted. I need to do something. Issei. Either Hyoudou only managed to think in a strong way to attack the fifth team that Oni lost or controlled and ended up playing for a long time with all the internal and external effects in his body, or the young man was quickly running as if Esteves fleeing the demon or was still behind. Come back! He still hasn't finished dressing his meat to eat. Oni. The brown-haired teenager materialized the bow with a knife of arrows to start shooting at the monster after shooting at the arrow when he managed to hide it temporarily. Onis, we have an Otomo Alfado, enteo e questo de tempo e liachari sos cores sal vivos demes para esse camouflage a night. Archer. The hero's bow quickly drew an arrow in the direction of the monster's skin. The arrow was reinforced by mana and a primed hair trace so that it could be less torn and also tear the monster's skin. The first shot of a fierce bow or yokai that felt like shooting a Soko in its direction, a thing that left Issei very happy and Fez or launching more arrows every second to try to kill that monster. The following arrows were able to pierce part of the monster's arm, part of the body, part of the shoulder and part of the leg. The demon was bleeding and his blood was bleeding as the fight continued and he couldn't locate Issei. Localize the blood supply of food. Oni. The 5-meter monster with blue skin and various arrows pierced its body advanced in the direction of Issei with a very high speed, which it had not expected and continued to shoot. For 1 second, you will have to shoot at least 5 arrows at this moment, since 5 arrows will not be able to hit the ogre by repelling it with your palm. 2 seconds and more than 5 arrows had been shot and one managed to tear part of the ear of the monster that made it accelerate and become even more furious. 5 seconds Tinham passed and more than 15 arrows were drawn and 5 hit in the direction of the monster, a success that was not missed and was barely a scratch. A hit did not happen again and again in the leg that quased the Fez Tamar no Chow. 10 seconds Tinham passed and 25 arrows were launched in the direction of the demon who was now even more furious as he approached, as the arrows penetrated deeply into his flesh and were now weakening the young man. He felt that the monster could die if he continued like this. He increased even more at speed like madness. Archer. I don't have how to run anymore. Issei. The young man pulled back as he dematerialized his bow and materialized the white-colored swords ready to fight each other. The swords were in a defensive position as the rapacious man pulled back in an attempt to defend himself from a powerful weapon that was very powerful after a gigantic impulse. Speed by sudden fury and Quay's death. Now it's time to kill food to put on Panella. Oni. Issei's steel point, and his swords were completely destroyed. His shirt was completely destroyed as he was sent flying, and his socks were in a bad state, colliding with various trees as he was sent flying. The adolescent has been beaten in more than 5 hours with this Soko, and all of them destroyed in his conscience that he was hit by such a blow with his state of Quay's death after the blows that he had suffered before. Lift up your logo, or that thing is going to kill you! Archer. His dark state was quickly illuminated by his professor, who instructed him to invoke his swords again and move with all the speed he had in the direction of that powerful Yukai, who was not hesitating in doing so for a head-to-head duel that would decide his fate for 2 days. Iyu Vamadavose! Issei/Oni. The young man turned quickly to deflect from the other side as one of his swords was attacked in the direction of the head of the sword and the other was craved without the beast responding to it by Gigando on top of it and slewing. You don't want to die like that, retarded. Issei. Issei Tinam's bones are now broken and his organs are in danger of collapsing after tons of them are falling. But the young man ignored all that he had done to bite his tongue and materialize a sharp sword to cut the flesh of the monster that was destroying his body. Irritating food. Oni. This is not food, it is poison. Issei. With a closed sword he has opened a large part of the flesh of the demon that the Fez rises to play again with the brown-haired raptor who agi with more reflection aimed at Ao Puler to long and materialize Kancho and Bakuya. As the gem swords swing again once horizontally to the left to head straight to the shores of the fallen monster to open a large wound and force the flight path as soon as it deepens further to attack. You will do the quest to chew your flesh while I am alive. Oni. Vose neo vae mastigar pora nenhima. Issei. The swords will explode when the young man charges with magical energy to generate a large explosion to top the monster that fez. The two of you will ferrem as you continue facing each other until the next blows you see when both of you are in position. A shot with that powerful and giant leg in the direction of the brown-haired man that he quickly tried to deflect. But it was the right thing to do in his belly, and the wrong way to do it, and that for a long time he did not find the small swords craved in the leg's Naquili moment. Explodam! Issei. The swords Bakuya and Kancho exploded once more to make sure that all the bones were crushed and a large part of the meat was destroyed, along with the magical energy and the rest of the magical metal destroyed. So most of them were not better and were showing a lot of their flesh in the second explosion, and they were only able to secure a sword in a moment. But they also continued with their strength to materialize the same blades in a last blow. The monster tries to give a powerful blow in the direction of the upper part of his body, which you have to manage to divert as the rest of the energy you have and install the sheets so that he can be surprised. Explode. Issei. Or Oni was frightened when the swords exploded again in his left hand and suddenly, or he fell without energy. Or his heart had been crushed and his lungs had been completely disabled by the explosion. I won! Issei. Oh, Hyoudou made a cry of joy when the demon had fallen asleep and was so faint that he fainted, or he gathered all his remaining strength to move in a safe direction and sleep as he let the magic accelerate his cure. 3 days have passed so that the young people could finally remember and save, moving in a state that would not leave them very vulnerable. Oni's head was cut, and it was shown for the speed that was very frightening, and the rest of the life was also. But there is no explanation when it was used at high speed to collect the espolios and also to make more some things. I realized I needed a few things. Issei. Do what? Archer. I need tight clothes to camouflage myself at night, and my clothes need to be long to protect my body, and they need to be made of a material that conducts magic. I need a large, green-colored overcoat to allow me to store weapons and also to hide my blood so that I don't attack at points where I'm vulnerable. I need to cut my hair. Also so that it stays short when it is not grabbed again. Issei. I will help you create a suit that is quite modern and that will allow you to fight as much as you have. Archer. You spend the rest of the day healing and also doing the things that Issei asked for so that you can fight in a better way, fighting with a stronger and more powerful opponent, where you may remember and realize that you need more things to excel and also more strength to survive. Chapter 3. The Hero Crosses the Sea. Issei had returned home after shopping and bandaged his entire body while hiding the wounds with long clothes. The boy was very happy to have defeated a powerful opponent, and very sad for the beating he had received, one he would never forget. I almost died in that battle. Issei. I thought you were really going to die when that thing grabbed your hair. Archer. Hyoudou thought he had been grabbed too brutally by the hair, and so he cut it to keep it short so this wouldn't happen again in a battle. He just didn't shave it because he thought it would look too ugly. A week had passed and the young man had acted more and more times that week and he did not stay still despite being very injured. His thirst for power made him want to continue training and go after monsters that caused problems in the world. The first week he faced several demons and yokai, the most notable being a rogue demon who had enormous strength and speed. The young man came very close to death in the fight and had to give it his all while making great use of the power of holy water and the Bible. A yokai with the upper half of a woman and the lower half of a snake had greatly disturbed him, its venom and nets almost killing him in battle. The second week, he had to deal with an Oni outbreak. The tribe of the monster he had previously killed rebelled when they learned of their comrade's death and began wreaking havoc. But they were soon stopped by a barrage of deadly and powerful arrows analytically aimed at the spots where those monsters would be killed. The war with the Oni tribe lasted for several days because their bodies were very strong and Hyoudou slowly retreated knowing that he was no match for several at once. The only option he had was to fight from a distance with his bow while trying to kill those monsters one by one. Several people were gathered in a room to discuss something that was happening in Japan. The appearance of a certain hunter who was looking for anyone who dared to hurt innocent people. Yokais, fallen and demons were in the same room. The representative of the demonic beings was Seraphal Leviathan. The representative of the Japanese monsters was Yasaka and the fallen had Azazel as their representative. I really find this guy funny. I haven't been this excited since I learned how to make artificial sacred gear. Azazel. Azazel laughed a lot when a person had dared to hunt down anyone who had harmed humans or civilians of another race. This person seemed to have a fist of steel who did not care about his origin. I'm not going to complain about anything, because all the ones he killed were rogue demons who had gotten out of control and were causing havoc. I think this person's work is actually quite good. Seraphal. I say the same thing. The Oni tribe and others who fed on humans are trembling in fear from the knife at their throats, and it's become much easier to live in peace and manage our race. Yasaka. Yasaka laughed out loud when she found the proud Oni and other monsters who would not accept anyone's leadership kneeling down to take refuge in her faction. I heard he only goes after some monsters that cause trouble for people and leaves after clearing the creature's hideout. He doesn't seek fame or power by doing that. Azazel. He must just be cleaning out the hideout because he doesn't have any money and needs funds, so I don't think he's doing that, as it would be stupid not to take everything he was able to collect to invest in his own forces. Yasaka. This person also never laid a finger on an innocent person, and we don't even know his name. We only know that he is a boy dressed in black with a red hooded coat and brown hair. He also wore gloves for protection. Seraphal. The woman had placed a drawing of Issei's face and his current attire. The young man had been seen many times seeking information in the towns and villages that had been attacked, and even helped by hunting food for the inhabitants, and giving a little money so they could sustain themselves for a while. Let's convey his image to people of high standing and class among our races and remind them to befriend him. They must not provoke him or force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. Azazel. Who would be stupid enough to try to provoke a guy who's carrying out a massacre with evil supernatural creatures all over Japan? Seraphal. True. Yasaka. Imagine if this guy starts causing trouble in Europe and other places. Imagine how many monsters will stop causing trouble and being arrogant. Azazel. I need to meet this guy who seems to have balls of steel to kill anyone he wants. Seraphal. Me too. Azazel/Yasaka. The three of them laughed while Issei didn't even know about the conversation that was being had about him. The young man even thought about wearing a mask but thought it was useless after his teacher said that there were many traces of his blood and the rest of his DNA could be used to locate him. So he simply didn't hide his identity, and acted like he was strong and supreme to fool those who were more powerful. I'm going to have to leave Japan. The creatures causing trouble are being stopped by my small actions, and I can't track them down just from the news. Issei. You've killed hundreds of them in 2 weeks, and you've been acting like a killing machine out to get them. Archer. I couldn't stop when people were suffering because of these stupid beasts, not after reading all that news. Issei. Archer didn't blame his disciple for thinking the news was truly horrible and was even a little proud of him for trying to save everyone he could. The young man had been warned that he couldn't save everyone and responded with just a simple answer. It's really impossible to save everyone, but I can at least save those who are suffering injustices in front of me. Issei. The brown-haired teenager packed his backpack and told his parents he was going on a study trip to Europe, a lie he told so as not to worry his parents about his absence. Are you going to be okay? Mickey. I'll be great. Issei. My son is going to do an internship in Europe. How proud I am. Goro. Our son went from being a great pervert to a great scholar. Mickey. Hyoudou felt a little bad for lying to his parents like that, but it was necessary to travel to become stronger, and thus be able to guarantee their safety, and his own as well. How are we going to Europe? Are we going to buy a ticket? Issei. I had a much better idea. Archer. His master's idea was absurd and he wanted to deny it, but when he remembered that he could become even stronger by doing this, his hesitation disappeared and he began to prepare everything. Archer's idea was to make a raft and an oar so he could sail to Europe with that. He would also have to buy a mattress and things that could hold up his raft, which would have to be big, and he would also have to buy a lot of ropes and chains. Your idea is a little crazy. Issei. The raft was ready, but Hyoudou wouldn't get on it to row. He was tying the ropes and swimming in the sea towards the direction that should be an island for short breaks. The raft is just for you to sleep, do your business, and eat. You're not just going to row your way to Europe. You're going to be swimming while carrying your house on your back. It's going to be a great workout. Archer. Hyoudou thought it was a crazy idea, but he was just as crazy as his master and agreed to pull the raft with ropes and chains while it swam to Europe and made stops at various islands. The young man spent at least 14 hours swimming in the open sea, 2 hours for food and essential items and 8 hours for sleep and relaxation. His time was short, and the speed great to finally end the suffering. The first stop arrived in 2 days, an island that had been marked by reports of problems with a certain very attractive corner that drowned fishermen and sailors there, the victims appearing with their bodies extremely deformed and nothing left but blood. The island seemed to be isolated from everyone because they no longer dared to go fishing or do anything else with the many deaths that occurred if they dared to try to go out to sea. That guy is going to die today. I shouldn't have come to this cursed island. The sea nymphs will catch him. The young man was listening to this very well and gathered information from some children in exchange for meat and food. The young man had collected some things on his raft for the townspeople. Issei had caught some sheep and chickens to distribute to each child who had helped him. Sheep and chickens were a pair that could reproduce, and thus feed those who seemed to be hopeless and lacking much food. Come eat, Issei. The townspeople were gathering around the young man who was cooking a soup that looked very delicious. People could smell it and drool with the desire to eat that soup. The charity event for all the island's inhabitants lasted until nightfall when the reserves ran out. The young man had said goodbye while the locals wanted to prevent him from sailing and not get caught by those nymphs. I'm a hero who came to save them, believe me. Issei. The young man was smiling as he picked up his swords and also the bow and arrow. The young man even dared to swim to the bottom of the sea while everyone prayed for him to be okay and for a miracle to happen. Don't let this kind man die. Sir, make sure this man survives and appears somewhere safe, and doesn't let those monsters find him. The chestnut had swum to the bottom of the sea and was surprised to see several creatures there, and also to hear a melody that enchanted his ear and made him lose himself in an imaginary world. Issei! They're trying to hypnotize you. Archer! The white-haired teacher screamed to save his student, who awoke from the trance to a creature with the upper part of a woman and the lower part of a fish. This creature deformed its face to have teeth as sharp as a piranha's as it stared at him as if it were food. The number of these mermaids was 3, and they stared at him with their piercing eyes and pointed teeth. The closest mermaid tried to bite him in the throat to try to kill him, but the only thing he received was a blow with the concho on his neck to stop him from losing his head in a clean and fast way. Kill that man! Mermaid 2. Mermaids 2 and 3 had ordered the sharks and whales to attack the young man with brown hair who just smiled at that. Concho and Bakuya began to dance in the water as if they were 2 celestial swords. With each movement of the twin swords an enemy was killed, a fish was cut in half or into small pieces. Whales and sharks could not withstand a blow even being so numerous, since there was a huge difference between a normal animal and one that knew magic. These did not know magic and did not even represent a threat to someone who had specialized in fighting in different places during the 2 weeks, no matter if it was underwater, without vision, in the sewer or in a cave about to collapse. The mermaids tried to run, but their heads had already been cut off in less than 10 seconds by that young man who hypnotized them with his beautiful swords and movements. Now you can make sushi that will last at least a year, I say. The young man went to collect the whale meat and shark meat and separated them into different bags for the villagers. They also took the mermaid heads so that no trace of them would remain. Hyoudou also searched for the fish women's hiding places to obtain all kinds of jewelry and gold they had looted from the sailors. Am I seeing correctly? Boy 1. The guy killed all those fish and still ended up with those nymphs. Kid 2. That young man is a hero. Old man 1. I really wanted to marry someone like that. Woman 1. If you can see, it's very good for you. Woman 2. What did you say? Woman 1. The hero of Ko simply left food and certain supplies for the people of the village and left without anyone noticing. He didn't need thanks or to be remembered, he just needed the people to be safe. Are you rowing so you don't look weird? Archer. It would be really weird if those guys saw me carrying a raft on a rope while I was swimming. It would set a bad example for the young people, and I need to be a good one. Issei. Really, Archer? The two talked and laughed a lot as they thought about their destiny, Europe, and the final place of their training to become powerful people and be able to protect what they loved. The journey lasted a long time with many monsters and non-monsters trying to eat him. His sword swung only once for each creature that dared to stand in his way to kill it mercilessly. His first stop on Earth after a few days was in India. The young man had gathered all the money he could to illegally get a car and go to some places in Europe and Asia to hunt the supernatural that was going overboard and causing harm to ordinary people. The car he got was a black '67 Impala that had mysteriously attracted him. The young man made his changes so that it could be used in conjunction with magic and accelerated a lot while training his control over magic without wasting time in place. The hunt in the new lands has just begun. Issei. The teenager had been playing music in the car while driving, guided by a map. A big smile spread across his face as the altered car managed to exceed the speed of sound. Archer and Issei smiled at the thought of the hell on earth that would bring those who thought they were above the lives of innocents, and could do anything just because they were strong and gifted with mystical powers. Yasaka, Azazel, and Seraphal panicked when they heard the latest news. The monster hunter had left Japan and caused trouble at sea and was heading to another continent. That man killed several mermaids and sea dwellers who were causing trouble. Yasaka. He really went to create terror on another continent. Seraphal. I think that guy is asking for a war with all the evil of the supernatural. Azazel. Should we try to contact him as quickly as possible and arrest him? Yasaka. No, he's never laid a hand on any innocent supernatural being. He's only caught those who are running amok and causing trouble, people we want to eliminate. Azazel. Isn't there a danger of us being eliminated by him? Yasaka. No, I talked to his parents and even got the name of the monster hunter, and I found out that he's a fair person and only goes after idiots who go too far and appear on the news or some media. Seraphal. I'm going to help that guy catch more people. I'm going to contact a friend of mine so he can get a good source of information for Issei to hunt. I think he'll have second thoughts and investigate it himself so he doesn't kill any innocent people by mistake. Azazel, Seraphal, and Yasaka were glad to remember how their features looked after Issei appeared. The most rowdy ones were too scared to act because of the knife on their neck that represented that crazy monster hunter, and were now in a period of ascension thanks to the boy's actions. The three leaders had given the boy the position of executioner in their factions and freed him from any trouble the nobles and powerful wanted with him for killing different races without racial discrimination, status, or anything else. It was just a wisdom tooth for a tooth. Hyoudou was sneezing in his car as a few hours had passed and he had already left India. The boy was now heading to a group of villages that had been reported to have dozens of deaths every year in a certain period of time. A type of hunting ritual was being held in that place. Someone must have been talking about me, I say. Just ignore him and let's go hunt monsters. Archer. What kind of monster do you think you are? I say. I think it must be an illegal hunting ritual for vampires and werewolves. Archer. I hope it's not like that Twilight shit, where you can't call yourself a vampire or a werewolf. I say. Really, Archer? Chapter 4. Hunting Vampires and Werewolves. Several people were running desperately while screaming for help. The people were between 30 and 18 years old. They were in optimal condition to be able to run and were taken to this empty forest for that reason. A person fell to the ground out of nervousness. A branch had made her fall, and she became completely desperate while screaming for help. This person was a 22-year-old woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. A very beautiful person. Abe? The woman couldn't even finish saying anything when her neck was bitten by a woman with black hair and extremely pale skin. The brightness of life was disappearing from her eyes as she fell to the ground while her blood was fiercely sucked out. Now it's my turn. A humanoid that was the figure of a wolf and a man had run at great speed towards a man who was only 26 years old. This werewolf quickly launched a claw strike at the back of his victim to knock him down while grinning with his sharp fangs. I'm going to like this a lot. Werewolf. I have a wife and children, help? The man couldn't finish speaking like the woman, but this time it was to scream in pain as his body was bitten by those sharp wolf fangs tearing at his belly and internal organs while he laughed while devouring his victim alive. The rest of the kidnapped people ran even faster after hearing the screams. A black-haired man and a 3-meter-long white-skinned werewolf were waiting for them on the other side with a sadistic smile. End of line. Let's see who kills more in one. The werewolf and the vampire smiled as people fell to their knees, prayed, and did anything to see if they could be saved, even screaming in fear as they spoke of the loved ones they had in mind in their final moments. The victims had no way to react or escape when the vampire and werewolf attacked and killed them in the most brutal ways possible, ways that shouldn't be written about in this book due to the brutality and obscenity each of them carried out according to their own personal tastes. Perverse and unhealthy tastes. The black-skinned werewolf had arrived and hadn't transformed yet when he showed himself as a man. The white-skinned one was a very beautiful woman with blonde hair, and the two vampires were just smiling at the damage they had done. The hunt was great. White-haired woman. I really needed that. Black-furred werewolf. We need to do another one next month somewhere else. Vampiro 1. They're going to catch us like this. Vampiro 2. My parents know and they're covering for me. Werewolf. The four supernatural beings laughed a lot as they ordered the servants to collect the corpses and went home, but they had nothing when they returned home. Their parents were waiting for them at the exit, and they looked angry and sad at the same time. Their eyes were filled with panic. Do you have any idea what you did? Do you have any idea what trouble you caused? The person speaking was a man with sideburns and a beard. The person had black hair and dark skin, a very handsome and even mature man, a werewolf. The youngsters didn't know why their parents were so nervous and only understood after the white-haired girl's father fell to the ground. His back had a silver-imbued arrow and was about to hit his heart. Luckily it was from behind. It's here! Father! White-haired woman. The girl panicked, But her mother quickly carried her to the car while her father used the last of his strength to transform and search for the person who had shot the arrow. The rest of the young people were also taken by their relatives at high speed to another location, while the father of the injured girl stayed behind to buy time while he took one last look at his family. Do you know why I'm here? The person who appeared was a teenager dressed in black and a red coat with brown hair. He had his black and white swords in his two hands as he faced the werewolf. Is there any way you can spare my family's lives? They won't do it again, I promise. He has to die anyway. It wasn't the first time he did this, and it won't be the last if he's still alive. I can't forgive such horrible acts in my presence. The man advanced with all the strength he had towards that warrior who was carrying Bakri and Concho, who only made one movement and cut to end the life of that man who was on his last legs because of the silver arrow in a vital point of his body. You'd be a problem if I fought head-on, but it's nothing if I'm hurt. Issei. The black-furred werewolf's head had fallen to the ground as Issei continued to stare in the direction the others had escaped. The white-haired woman stood next to her mother as she asked her what had happened and who was that person who had attacked. The others were very nervous as well. That man is an exterminator of supernatural people who are out of control. He started his massacre in Japan and then went to the ocean to start another fight, and now he's here to catch you with his beasts and the barbarian hunting ritual with innocent people. Grace. The woman who was the mother of the white-furred werewolf was named Grace, the daughter was named Lily. The two vampires were named Rose and Abel, while the werewolf was named John. Why don't we fight him? That guy is just Rose. The red-eyed vampire was slapped by her own mother, who looked at her with contempt when she began to speak. That man has already killed over 100 supernatural creatures in just 2 weeks. His 5-day slaughter across the ocean involved over 50 of the most noisy sea creatures possible, from sea monsters to mermaids. Elizabeth. The young men panicked, thinking they had stirred up a hornet's nest they couldn't handle, and were about to give up crying until an arrow pierced the window of the car they were in and hit John in the head. My son! John's parents grabbed their son's body and got out of the car as they transformed into their humanoid wolf form to confront the man and avenge their reckless son as parents should, ashamed that the discipline hadn't been as great as the love. The two wolves were staring at the brown-haired man who was wielding his swords in a battle stance. The two sides said nothing as they began to fight. The two werewolves took the lead, attacking in position. The woman attacked first while the husband would provide support to his partner with an attack to defend her and also prevent her from dying from a single blow. Hyoudou dodged the blows with difficulty, one trying to hit his throat while the husband tried to finish off his chest with a jump. The young man had to jump twice in a row to dodge it. I'm going to finish this quickly or I'm going to lose track of the others. Issei. Let's get this over with quickly. Archer. The two werewolves attacked once more to claim the life of the brown-haired young man, who accepted the bite towards his arm while using the other to drive the sword into the skull and take the woman's life. Dear werewolf. The werewolf's husband, who had just died after nearly shattering the hunter's arm, had been shaken, and that moment of fury and sadness was what Issei needed to end his life by striking him directly in the skull with his sword to pierce his brain. I find it ironic that they love hunting so much, but don't like being hunted. Issei. They are hypocrites who only take advantage of the weak. Archer. Issei and Archer laughed scornfully at those who hunted innocent people. The two would not say anything if they hunted bandits who had committed crimes and would even turn a blind eye. But they could not accept that the lives of innocent fathers, mothers, and children were cut short in a brutal manner just to satisfy their taste for hunting. They should be like me. Issei. A suicidal idiot who even hunts the devil if he makes a mistake. Archer. Yeah, that kind of person. Issei. I'm not going to complain about anything, because I'm the same. Archer. John is dead, and his parents must be dead by now. They can't fight that monster for long. Grace. Grace's eyes reddened as she thought about the shit her children were doing by ignoring the supernatural's rules about not involving or hurting normal people. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die, Rose. Rose had collapsed after looking at John's corpse and also the expressions on her friends' faces. Once she was hunting and now she was the hunted. It seems you never expected karma to knock on your door after all the shit you did. How ridiculous. Grace. Grace looked at her daughter with contempt in her eyes as she was bored thinking that her father's death was her fault. John's parents' death was her fault. A head had fallen to the ground, and that head belonged to a vampire named Abel, and the body had been thrown out of the vehicle while a brown-haired man took his place and smiled in his seat after killing him. My son! Abel's parents were shocked when they saw that their son had been killed and wanted to react, but wooden stakes were already in their hearts, and they turned to dust the moment they realized this. I wanted to show you something before we start fighting. I hope it's worth everyone's time. Issei. The young man had checked his pocket and took out 2 photos of people he knew a few seconds ago. This photo was of the 2 people who had been killed by people here or who had previously died by Hyoudou. This blonde-haired woman named Emily is a poor orphan who raises 2 brothers alone. Her hunting game has just deprived her 2 brothers of the only family they had. Issei. Hyoudou showed a few more photos of the blonde-haired woman while no one dared to do anything. They didn't have the courage to react or even escape. They only had the utmost fear in their bodies, the same fear that those young people had in their victims. This guy's name is Gabriel, a good husband who has a sick wife and children who depend heavily on him. Their parents are weak and need the money he receives for their treatment. His prank seems to have cost an entire family. His wife and parents ended up dying from hospital bills they couldn't pay because of his disappearance. Their children were sent for adoption. Issei. The hero showed pictures of Gabriel to the supernatural beings who were watching everything and were even more shocked when they showed a video from the man's cell phone that Issei had taken that showed his family together. We're going to change, Rose. The woman couldn't even finish saying anything when her head was cut off with a shake from Bakuya and Hyda's cold eyes looking at them. I'm not here to make you change. I'm here to judge and enforce the sentence. I simply believe you should be aware of your crimes before you die. Issei. Rose's parents charged at the young man who knocked him out of the car while showing only the deepest anger toward the man in front of them. I'm going to kill you and then I'm going after that white-haired woman. Issei. The young man didn't smile at this as he didn't like killing and only did it to prevent more people from dying and also to become stronger and make sure his loved ones didn't suffer because of it. The first to act was the red-eyed vampire who materialized a blood spear and threw it at the same moment. The woman had materialized a shower of blood arrows and the strength of both could be seen by the projectiles. Hyoudou used Bakuya and Khonshu to reflect the blows at high speed in advance, but he couldn't avoid getting injured a couple of times and could only shake off blows that would hit his vital points. It doesn't seem that big. And vampire. We should have banded together and killed this worm. Vampire. The 2 sought to end Issei's life by increasing their strength. The spears the older vampire launched per second were 10 per second and were quite powerful. The woman who was Rose's mother had launched at least 50 blood projectiles per second. The brown-haired teen was using his swords to finish off most of the blows and mainly dodge the spears that were destroying his body, causing great internal destruction. The wounds appeared more and more on the boy who did not give up and continued advancing while the vampires took a few steps back for fear that the beast would approach. The hero faltered after receiving many blows and ended up falling to the ground while closing his eyes. The 2 vampires were very happy to see the death of their enemy, the one who had killed their precious daughter. We killed the legendary monster hunter. Rogue. Our states will increase. Vampire. The 2 laughed a lot as their egos grew and they advanced towards Issei to cut off his head and hang it as a trophy in their house. The 2 vampires approached carelessly, and no longer felt the heartbeat of the young man who should have been dead, but was not when the swords had materialized in his hand to cut off heads. Coward! Rogue! The vampire had managed to dodge it, but her husband's head and life were lost in that blow and both of them looked with enormous disgust and anger at the monster hunter who was all wounded. Don't expect me to be honorable, because honor won't keep me alive and it's of no use to me. Issei. The woman's head was cut off the next moment by the black sword. One cut was enough to kill the weakened vampire and Hyoudou simply continued looking at the path that. Only Lily and Grace were alive now besides the driver. The white-haired teenager trembled with fear thinking that a few seconds ago everyone was laughing and now they were dead. It was my fault, Lily. That's right, I've tried to stop you countless times and even punished you, but it seems you really wanted to do that. Grace. The white-haired girl cried as she remembered the moments with her mom and dad, with her friends, and then she remembered that it was all the fault of the massacre they caused several times in a row, not just one time. A person had entered again through the door that was destroyed. The person was Hyoudou, who had his entire body injured and with his iconic swords in his hands to continue fighting. Spare my mother's life. You can kill me, you can sell me to a prostitution club or whatever you want. But spare my mother's life. Lily. The white-haired werewolf had her head bowed as she pleaded uselessly. Her mother had done the same and would even fight for her daughter even if she had every flaw possible, because that was the duty she chose to take on as a mother. I don't like killing and I can make a better deal for you too. Issei. The brown-haired young man sat while dematerializing the swords. Lily and Grace stared at him as if he were an angel's bell. I will enslave you with a master-slave contract of the utmost rigor. Disobedience is equivalent to death. I will use your money as I see fit. Issei. The two women were overjoyed when they thought they could be saved. The monster hunter would forgive them on certain conditions until they were healed. The contract only required both of their signatures for the seal to be placed on their bodies, and a magical poison was even placed in Issei's hands as a second way to keep their lives alive. I want you to give all the necessary support to the affected families or I will kill you. I also want some information that I don't have because I don't have a good source, and Issei. Hyoudou gave up the obligation to take care of the families, as killing these two people was very easy, but it wouldn't resolve the situation at all and could also be used for better purposes. He also managed to locate the homes of the vampires and werewolves he killed to collect their fortunes and also relics that could be used for himself. Issei was now traveling in the Black and Maple 67 with all the things he had collected. The young man was very happy after getting all the information and materials necessary to continue evolving in his level and hunting. You did the right thing by not killing them and using them for something that's actually good for the families affected. Archer. The girl's mother is innocent, and she couldn't break my code of killing someone who never did any harm, and I believe that simply killing doesn't solve things. I need to make sure the victims are okay, and this mother and daughter pair can help me with that. Issei. The young man laughed a lot as he thought about the upcoming hunts he would have. He had been very tired and injured after fighting several vampires and werewolves in one night. Chapter 5: Witch Hunt. A week had passed, the incident was in the past, and the young man had returned to hunting with even more strength after obtaining artifacts to copy and add to his arsenal. His strength had increased even more and the hunt increased in speed. The young man had eliminated at least more than 20 monsters this week, more than 50 monsters during his stay in Europe and Asia. His name was spreading throughout the place, and the evil creatures were being controlled. This job is going to be complicated. Archer. Issei was watching a news report that reported the disappearance of several people in an area from time to time. The corpses were dry and the vitality had been stripped away. The young man thought it was a cult. We're going to have to face some crazy cultists. It won't be difficult at all. Issei. I wish it were like that. Archer. Hyoudou Issei's master was looking at that newspaper with a very sharp gaze. He was thinking about what this creature would face now, the difficulties he would face to kill it. The creature is a witch. It won't be easy to locate and kill her. Archer. The brown-haired young man had read information about witches and his skin sweated profusely at the thought of these people who dedicated themselves to the dark side of magic and discarded ethics and morals. The date of the next ritual must be approaching. Let's prevent this from happening again soon. Issei. The young man accelerated the Black 67 Impala towards the direction where the witch was, at least the region where she was, since he was completely unaware of where she was and where her fortress should be. Her clothes were changed to white to camouflage herself with the snow of the place, since the black sorceress was in a region that had a lot of snow and another that had few people and only a few thousand people. We will not appear in the village so as not to let our presence be known to any informant or slave of the witch. Archer. Hyoudou had stopped far from the village and was observing everything with his sharp eyes. His master had taught him a technique to amplify his vision and see at least a few kilometers away. The young man observed the movement for at least 2 hours, and the town seemed very normal from the outside, but his gaze managed to capture some strange signs that not even his teacher could identify, and also signs of hypnosis in some inhabitants. If we entered the village, we'd be ambushed or poisoned. Archer. Let's start tracking the witch's base. Issei. The two spent a few hours looking around the village for more clues, but nothing new had turned up, and they waited all night to see if anything new would appear in the moonlight. I think it's just starting. Issei. Beings made of stone 3 meters tall had entered the village with a hood to cover their bodies. Hyoudou only knew that they were golems due to his extremely sharp vision, and also because he sensed Archer's mana and clues, or he would mistake them for some kind of chimera or abnormal human. Let's keep going and see if we can find the witch. Archer. The young man had his bow well covered with a white cloak to camouflage himself with the snow, and he was also taking every precaution to avoid being detected by magic. The golems seemed to be taking several children by force. They were taking strength from their mothers to take them tied to a cart somewhere. Issei and Archer looked at this with extreme disgust. This cursed witch will sacrifice these children to gain more power and longevity. Archer. She must perform that ritual from time to time to maintain her power and longevity. Issei. We're dealing with a powerful witch, not just anyone. Archer. Issei and Archer were more alert, and were preparing their bow to shoot at those golems at any time in case they were detected. Luckily, they discovered the place very quickly after several minutes, and that was enough to shoot 2 explosive arrows at high speed to destroy those enemies, made of stone. The boy wasted no time and quickly knocked out the children in the stroller, as some of them might get hypnotized and ruin the whole stealth operation the boy was carrying out. The young man left them in a place that everyone knew and that they could return alone since they were already used to it. It didn't take long for him to take everyone with his speed above the speed of sound in a cart to transport them. The real difficulty was remaining secret and not generating traces of magic so that it would not be discovered by any relative or servant of the wandering witch. The witch's familiars ranged from dogs and wolves to bats and owls. The slaves were people who were marked with some kind of mark on some part of their body and possessed a strange, lifeless attitude. The teenager had returned a while later and had come across a huge cave that seemed to be where the witch lived, as it had magical defenses, totems, and other types of security measures. We can't invade this place without being discovered. We have to make a quick invasion of the witch's hiding place and kill her in one fell swoop. Archer. Lacking anti-magic tools is a pain, but I have to agree with your points. The chance of us invading this place without being discovered is 0, Issei. The young man with brown hair prepared himself from a distance that could not be seen to shoot at high speed. He was going to use everything he had in this running and shooting. Let's finish off the witch. Archer. The two smiled as the hero's body moved swiftly in a marathon that greatly broke the sound barrier and entered the cave, causing light and heavy things to fly and be thrown into the distance, the run not stopping when he jumped to push off the wall and used even more force to avoid breaking. The witch's hideout was experiencing several unknown tremors. Cracks were appearing in every corner, and the golem guards were unable to correctly identify the invader due to their high-speed marathon. They could only see the traces of destruction that would lead them to the young man. It only took a second to locate the witch, and the arrow was in the bow to shoot while still in the air. Hyoudou didn't care if there was a wall or barrier. He would break it anyway with his powerful arrow by marking that witch as his target. What the hell is this? Witch. The woman quickly activated a magic barrier to defend against the approaching arrow. The boy simply released the arrow with all the strength he had to penetrate those defensive magic circles and then advance with his swords. Kancho and Bakuya applied an X-shaped cut to tear that powerful magical barrier, which was unsuccessful due to the difference in powers between them, and this did not discourage him. It seems you dared to invade my domain. Witch. I'm too daring. Issei. Hyoudou laughed as he moved at high speed to try to cut that woman again. The barrier was still active, and that's why the young man chose to overload his swords and make them self-destruct in the middle of the cut he made. The blast covered the entire room and only stopped spreading further due to the barrier the witch had placed on the area. Her defense had been broken, and the swords materialized again to mortally attack and kill her with a cut to the neck with the black sword and one to the chest with the white one. Fool. Witch. The beautiful witch invoked a wind spell to throw Hyoudou, who was taken by surprise and quickly thrown away by the blow that was intended to push him away, but not before retaliating by materializing the bow to launch several arrows. The arrows were launched at a very fast speed, and the woman did not think it was accurate even in these conditions in the air. The woman was sure it was not entirely accurate because the 5 arrows that were launched did not hit vital points they were aiming for. They hit her hand, a leg, grazed her cheek, her ear, and one right on her knee. The witch quickly summoned several fireballs towards the young man. The balls were hit by the arrows that managed to hit accurately due to the better position, and this still caused him enormous damage at the time when such spheres of fire condensed by magic exploded near him. The flames burned part of his clothing, and his choice was to discard the burned portion and keep the remaining part intact so as not to be distracted by the pain of his burned body. The temperature in the room rose due to the explosion of the fireballs and debris. Kancho and Bakuya quickly materialized as he exploded with momentum to cut down the witch, who quickly created another barrier, an even more powerful one, to prevent the 2 swords from passing through, and the young man exploded the swords to destroy them, but to no avail this time, and hurting his hands as the gloves were completely destroyed. I will combine several swords with our skill into a powerful arrow to kill her. I will not insist on the same blow. Issei. Hyoudou kept jumping between walls while trying to materialize a type of sword that could be used to break that woman's defenses. Archer was giving advice on which swords the two could take qualities from and fuse to form the arrow. The witch didn't like this, as she felt the magical power of the environment increasing and her enemy trying to materialize something, so she made the flames even more powerful and also used wind magic to make a strong wind throughout the room, not including where she was, making it difficult to launch any projectiles. The young man didn't care about his flesh being cut as he continued to materialize the ideal sword for the moment. The wind was causing several wounds and bleeding on his body, but nothing mattered when the sword formed in his hand ready to be thrown. At the bow, black man who materialized at that moment. The witch panicked when she saw that sword and discovered its ability to cut through her barrier if it was thrown by that arc. She activated the defensive functions of her barrier and also increased the offensive power of the fire hurricane that tormented the creature. It doesn't matter anymore. Issei. The arrow was knocked and released in the next second with all the force she could muster on the string. The blade managed to break the sound barrier and increase to a few machs, which surprised the witch, even with her awkward posture due to the incorrect posture and awkward position while jumping over the wall. Cursed witch. His head had been torn off by the powerful arrow that had come from the other side of the cave, while Hyoudu's body had been burned by the flames of the hurricane that the witch had summoned. His upper body was covered in cuts, and now part of his body was burning with powerful flames that made him want to scream in pain from the flames entering his wounds. The young man went out to wash and bandage himself until his body healed at the same time, and a strange man with a top hat and 2 colored eyes, one was blue and the other red. His clothes were also divided between these 2. Flag. What a wonderful fight! The brown-haired youth quickly materialized his battle swords, the black and white colored swords with the name of Kancho and Bakuya, to point at this person who had appeared out of nowhere with some motive that could be hostile or not. I'm Mephistopheles, a demon who's in charge of the Magicians Association, and I've come to extend an invitation. Mephisto. Archer had Issei drop his swords after the man introduced himself, as that person was far more powerful and cunning than them. Resistance or attempts were useless anyway. Can I know what you want? Issei. I want you to join my wizarding guild. I'll give you benefits if you do, and I think you need support. Mephisto. Hyoudou didn't deny this and thought he could agree with the demon as long as he talked more deeply about joining the association and didn't restrict him from going out hunting. But your entrance will be special, as we have certain matters to discuss. Mephisto. The demon had materialized a table and 2 chairs for the 2 of them to sit on, which the boy did not refuse because he still wanted to know what the man wanted from him, and thus end the conversation. I want you to join our organization and accept contracts designed to eliminate monsters, people, or even gather materials. The contracts you accept are at your discretion and have rewards. Mephisto. I want to take a look at all the swords the association has in its arsenal so that my entry is advantageous for me and some other conditions such as not ceasing to be human, my freedom, Issei. Hyoudou and Mephisto talked for several hours until the two came to an agreement, and went to a different location so he could take a look at the arsenal of the Mage Association and others so that his power could increase and the fruits he could reap would be greater. Issei managed to gather information on Ro Ajax, Calidbalg, Confronting, and Ascalon for his arsenal, one of the things the young man really wanted, as he could easily defeat the witch with these weapons in his arsenal. The other favor he asked for was a message to locate two people who had caught his attention and who could later fight for the hegemony of the strongest human hero. But that wasn't what interested him, it was something else. Hyoudou was driving his 67 Impala to the top of a mountain where he had to wait for some people to arrive. The time would be a few hours later, but the boy was someone who would like to have everything ready. Issei had brought several kitchen accessories to prepare the food he brought, as the meeting was very important, and he wanted it to be perfect. The chairs had also been purchased with a lot of his own money due to the arrogance and haughtiness that one of the guests had. Hours passed when the chestnut tree had finished eating and was also decorating the meeting place for the three people who were already waiting for him at the table to eat. A stupid commoner like you better have a good reason for asking me for a meeting or I'll beat the shit out of you so you never speak my name, or dare think about me again, you filthy mongrel. The person who had spoken was a man with blonde hair and red eyes. This person was called Vali and he was a famous brawler who went out to fight against all kinds of giant monsters and powerful creatures that existed in modern times. I'm not as violent as he is, but I wouldn't like being called to talk nonsense or useless talk. You're lucky I'm someone with a good heart and a good sense of humor, or I'd rub your face in the dirt to stop you from talking shit. Val. The man who spoke now was much more polite, but he had a firmer and nobler voice than Vala could speak with. That person was Chow Chow and he carried a powerful red spear that made Issei's skin sweat a little. I'm here to propose something you won't want to refuse, Issei. The boy was wearing gloves and a chef's apron. The apron was very cute, and so were the gloves when he placed the food and cutlery on the table to test his cooking. Are you interested in forming a hero guild? Issei. Chow Chow and Vali hadn't understood what Issei had said, as they thought that this would just be another group and the two already had a group they could rely on and fight alongside them. The Heroes Guild will be an organization that brings together the bravest men and women to fight against any monster or threat that arises around the world. Intelligence will be provided by the Mages Association at first, but soon we will have our own intelligence and become independent. The advantage of forming such a guild is that we will be able to act more freely than before, despite the responsibilities. Issei. Chow Chow found the idea interesting and Vala was considering whether he would accept something that could consume his valuable time, which he spent on the pleasures of life and pursuing challenges. I'm interested in forming an organization, and I think the name of the famous monster hunter and king of fighters is something that would boost that. Chow Chow. Chow Coa was interested in how far his spear could take him as a human, and now he had the opportunity to further exploit the organization he was thinking of creating and also the chance to explore a bigger world. I'm also interested in this. I'm eager to elevate my own organization to the level where even a pantheon of gods must show us respect. Val. The three of them laughed as they lost themselves in conversation and food. They had discovered that they were quite similar, and their ambitions were equally great in all cases. Vala wanted to be on par with the gods, or rather, he wanted to surpass the gods, and creating an organization that could stand toe-to-toe with a pantheon was something that was among his goals. Chow Chow was someone who wanted to see how far the potential of his spear could go, and if he could be called a hero in the true meaning of the word, and the guild fulfilled his enormous ambitions. Issei was someone who wanted to protect the weakest and those he loved. The young man had traveled a long time on his vacations and finally discovered the reason why he wanted to become more powerful. I want to be a hero like my teacher, Issei. The Hero Guild seemed to have been formed at that moment, when the three of them came together to make a pact and plan the structure and how the organization would be shaped. They also exchanged contacts so they could talk to each other and... A commoner like you doesn't deserve this machine, I'll keep it for myself. Val. Vali had disappeared with Issei's Impala 67 and with half of the money and treasure he had in a millisecond, leaving him with his mouth open. The boy discovered from Chow Chow in that instant that the blonde was someone who had the habit of taking things he wanted. They thought he looked better with him. Son of a hitch, Issei/Archer. Chapter 6. The Hero Returns Home. Issei spent a few more weeks in Europe to organize the Hero Guild alongside Chow Chow and Vali. The blonde and he fought intensely when they met, one that was capable of destroying several cities and mountains at the same time. Luckily, he had a barrier to prevent damage in the normal world. Give me back my car. Issei. That car is mine now. Val. At least my treasure. Issei. Mine too. Val. The yellow and brown-haired youths were fighting again when this happened. Hyoudou really wanted to beat him up and deeply regretted calling him back to the guild after the defeat. Vala was laughing as they started fighting. The brown-haired youth posed a great threat with his current power after training for over 2 months in various death and near-death situations. Issei's fighting experience was something only someone who had lived on a battlefield for years could match, as he fought several times with both strong and weak people in the world. Has the guild rank system already been established? Issei. Yes, we've all received our ranks. Chow Chow. It's a shame it's not in the S-class. Val. The Hero Guild's rank was about the level of threat they could face. E rank was for superhuman creatures, D rank was for low-class creatures, C rank was for middle-class creatures, B rank was for high-class creatures, and A rank was for supreme-class creatures. S-class is only for those who have the powers of demon kings. You don't have such a power. Chow Chow. We're both in Class A while the brown-haired commoner is in Class B. How funny, Vala. Issei shot an arrow to hit Vala's head, who dodged it and sent a sword towards him. The two didn't stop fighting the moment they met, and it was terrible for Chow Chow to stop them both. Please confirm that the documents here are correct. Chow Chow. Issei and Vala picked up the document they had made with the current members of the Hero Guild. The two became excited when they saw so many members listed for the group they were creating. List of members. S rank, Tobio accused Lavinia. Rank A, Vala, Chow Chow. B rank, Issei, Biko, Arthur Pendragon, George and Kuroka. Rank C, Joan, Heracles, Lefay, Nia and Siegfried. Rank D, more than 20 members. Rank E, more than 100 members. Guild Master, Chow Chow. Vice Guild Master, Vala. Founder Issei. Issei and Vala saw nothing wrong with the documents. Hyoudou made a deal with Chow Chow to take Class A missions whenever he wanted because he had the ability to kill those enemies stealthily, and with special methods that he wouldn't normally employ. The Guild Master was Chow Chow because he was the one who best knew how to deal with groups and also because he was the most responsible among the three. The other two were people who wandered around the world creating trouble and not caring about anything other than their own affairs and own goals. Tobio Accuse and Lavinia were called to the guild by Vala as supervisors of the yellow-haired boy and also because they are big names in humanity nowadays, and they both accepted when they found out the reason why the Heroes Guild was founded. I was thinking our guild could have a headquarters like a tavern. Issei. Like a tavern? Chow Chow. It should be a palace. Val. The guild headquarters should be a welcoming place for those returning home from grueling life or death missions, a place where people can drink, sing, and play until they're tired and then go on to a fight. The guild should be the home they can return to after greeting death. Issei. Chow Chow laughed as he thought that the guild should really be a tavern where everyone could have fun. The atmosphere would be very good for everyone, and Vala was convinced because of this that it would be a much better place than a castle and a palace. E and D rank members are not allowed to perform missions unless they have been supervised by AC rank or higher, as this could lead to unnecessary deaths due to unforeseen circumstances and the like. Vali began to make some proposals that made sense to Issei and Chow Chow, who quickly agreed with the words spoken by the yellow-haired, red-eyed founder. The meeting lasted a few hours before they settled everything and decided on the location of the headquarters, which would be in Japan and have some teleportation locations throughout Europe, America, Africa, and Asia. The three of them worked hard on completing guild missions and only took on A-rank ones, which were extremely dangerous and took both of them days to solve, as they were problems that needed to be solved immediately. Vali took on a mission to fight a dragon that was trying to feed on people in Norse territory. Issei took on a mission to fight several giants that got out of control in Greek territory, and Cao Cao went to Celtic territory to fight a giant sea serpent that was causing trouble in the seas near them. The three of them had their names known after a few weeks of action and several Class A missions solved. The trio always solved the problems they were asked to with the least possible damage to civilians, and even the arrogant and annoying blonde was someone like that who helped everyone. The brown-haired hero's vacation was over and he returned to his city so as not to worry his parents too much. He had learned to teleport, and so the job wouldn't be as difficult as before. The city he had been leaving for months seemed to remain the same old air that had always overwhelmed him and made him excited for a bit of peace after several months of incessant battles and missions. Looks like my proud son has finally returned home. Mickey. Let's celebrate now that the boy decided to come back. Goro started buying better quality barbecue meat, and Mickey was also buying some things to make the best dishes she could make. The two were living a very good life with the money their son sent them to help them. The youngest Hyoudou made up several lies to tell his parents about his adventures. The boy couldn't say that he had been fighting various monsters from folklore and mythology for months and risking his life. His mother would start hitting him if he said that. The meal dragged on as his parents listened to several stories from him about how amazing his trip had been. The night had ended with him sleeping in his bed while thinking about his own life. Are you enjoying your current life? Archer. I am. People are being saved thanks to my deeds, and I've become powerful enough to fight and protect my loved ones. Issei. I'm proud of the man he's become. Archer. I'm proud to be guided by you, Master. Issei. Issei was falling asleep while thinking about what the next day would be like at Koa's school. The boy really didn't want to go to school and wanted to continue doing missions around the world with the guild. The young man had gotten up very early and was getting ready to go to school. He was completely discouraged from doing boring things like studying, writing, and other things, and was just going to fulfill his duties as a son. He arrived at the second-year classroom and thought about what he was going to do until class started. The young man was reprimanded several times for simply being bored and going to sleep and other things. The signal for the break was his great release until he felt a demonic energy approaching his person. A man with blonde hair and a gentle attitude walked towards his seat. Could you accompany me to meet someone? Kiba. Of course I can. Issei. Issei was extremely alert to meet the master of this blonde-haired demon who was a kind of idol at school. The young man thought they would not be hostile towards him because of his fame, but there would always be fools. The place they arrived at was a building that had a somewhat gothic decoration. This two-story building inside was a very beautiful place and made Hyoudou like the accommodation very much. In the room was a beautiful woman with blonde hair, a ponytail tied with an orange ribbon, and a woman with loose red hair. This was the most beautiful person the young man had seen so far. It seems that both Rias Gremory and Akeno Himejima are demons. The school idols are the devil. Issei. Hyoudou was laughing when he said the two women were the devil and didn't deny anything and just laughed awkwardly at his little unfunny joke. It seems the famous hero has pretty bad taste in jokes. Laughs. My heart hurts like this. Issei. Issei liked the person in front of him even more and wanted to know what he wanted from him as soon as possible so he could go back to sleeping in the living room. I have a suggestion you'll really like. Laughter. I won't be joining your evil gang. Issei. I know you won't, and that's not why I called you. Laughs. The brown-haired youth was now very interested in the direction the conversation was taking. Something that could help his organization if they had a high-class devil on their side to gain support beyond the Mage Association. I know you're a mage, and that's why I want to sign a standard contract between a mage and a demon so we both benefit. Laughs. Hyoudou had already heard about the contract between sorcerer and demon from Mephisto when he was teaching him the basics of magic, and he also learned about it from his teacher. What do I gain from this contract? Issei. You have the support of a great lady of the underworld, I am the heiress of the great Gremory clan, and I am also the little sister of Mao Surzux Lucifer, one of the most powerful demons in the world. Yes. Issei smiled when he thought of the fruit he could obtain by joining Rias with a sorcerer and devil contract. The two of them could ask for help from both sides, and the hero guild could grow with this woman helping him save even more people and even the civilians of the underworld. I'll submit a request to my brother to allow the hero guild to hunt high-class demons and above as long as they've committed a sin punishable by death. Laughs. Hyoudou quickly shook hands with Gremory to agree on a contact between mage and demon. He was very happy when the hero guild was able to expand to the underworld and the other two would also stay. I am Hyoudou Issei, the founder of the guild and a B-class hero Issei. I am Rias Gremory, the heiress of the great Gremory clan. Laughs. The contract between the two was signed with a handshake with magical seals in which both agreed to some rules so as not to impose limitations on either party. The occult club had gained another member at that moment when the handshake was given. The hero and the demon felt they could trust the other with their own lives. I'll talk to my friends about this, and I'm very happy to have been chosen by Rias-san. I say. I look forward to good cooperation between the two of us. Laughs. The redhead laughed as the young man left, and Akeno also laughed along with Kiba. The trio was happy with this addition to the group. We have a great new member. Kiba. We managed to catch a very beautiful and powerful Kohai, to tell the truth. Akeno. That guy is the kind of person who has a pure heart, but he's not naive. I'm looking forward to seeing what he'll show me. Laughs. Hyoudou was gathered with Vali and Chow Chow at a table in the Heroes Guild to talk about the good news. I made a contract between a demon and a magician with Rias Gremory, and she will try to pave the way for cooperation between us and the underworld. I say. This is good news for us. Cooperation with the underworld is essential for our organization to prosper. Chow Chow. I think it will be helpful if we can gain access to the underworld and its materials. It will be very useful indeed. Val. Our organization will be the best. I say. He will definitely be the best. Chow Chow. We'll be on equal footing with those at the top and we'll confront them from above. Val. The three of them toasted with a drink while smiling, both of their dreams taking a step forward with this news. Chapter 7. The Encounter with a Nun. Issei was silently buying the dinner he was going to make at his house. The boy was very fond of cooking and would help his mother with the cooking. He wanted his parents to taste his cooking, the food he is so proud of. You've become a great owner, Archer. I had to learn from you. Not everyone survives your hellish training, and I'm not going to eat shit just because I'm in bad shape. Issei. Hyoudou has developed an extreme for cleanliness after living in many places these past few months. He lived in sewers, forests, caves, slums, and other places that were suitable for hiding and watching. I still remember very well when I had to spend hours under the sewer to hunt some kind of ghoulish goblin that kidnapped people at night. Issei. That game was very sebaceous. Its hiding place was disgusting. Archer. They were both very anxious to vomit when they remembered that the macabre where it was a complete pig. The smell was completely disgusting and the place was even worse. Are you okay? A woman hit the brown-haired boy's back to try to help him after she saw him almost vomit. This beautiful woman had blonde hair and dressed like a nun from the church and had a pure aura. I've improved now, thank you. Issei. The young man was grateful for the woman's support in the situation where he was in extreme discomfort due to remembering the bad memories of his hunt. The young woman was happy and breathed a sigh of relief when she saw his condition improve. I'm Issei Hyoudou, a student at Ko Academy, and you? Issei. I'm Asia Argento, a nun who just arrived in town. Asia. The woman hesitated to say she was a nun, and the young man soon realized that she should have been banished or transferred against her will. The girl seemed like a good person, and her aura did not indicate any impurity. I wanted to know if you could take me to church. I really need to go there. Asia. Issei was happy to help the woman and even guided her to the church, which was in a decayed state. The boy was talking to the woman and realized that her magical energy was abnormal and should have some kind of special power. The teenager realized she felt uncomfortable going to church for some reason and decided to do something unexpected. Do you want to stay at my house? I can pay for a place for you to stay in case you feel uncomfortable around me and my house. Issei. Asia was surprised by the invitation from the boy who seemed to want to help her out of something. She was very happy, but soon remembered that her enemies were powerful and that they could not bring a normal person to their problems. I can't do that. Asia. I guarantee you'll have a blast at my house, or anywhere else besides this abandoned church. Issei. Asia. The blonde was about to say something, but Issei's finger interrupted her at the same moment, while a warm smile was on her face. Nothing too bad is going to happen. There's no need to worry about the problems that plague you while I'm here. Issei. The boy was passing a warm aura to the woman who felt more peaceful and was willing to accept his condition until the space in the area warped and a woman with black hair and black wings appeared. I'm sorry, but Asia needs to go with us and can't stay with you. Asia seemed to be very scared when she heard this voice, and it seemed as if danger was approaching when a spear of light arrived behind Issei's back. Attacking me with such a weak attack is foolish even if I'm distracted. Issei. The Hyoudou quickly materialized a normal sword that could be enhanced with his reinforcement powers and cut through the spear of light with a simple swing of his sword. Who are you? Rainier. The black-haired woman who belonged to the fallen angel race wondered a lot about who this man was. She felt great danger coming from him, and her sword materialized at that moment. I don't need to tell my name to someone who is Issei. The brown-haired youth stood with his mouth agape as the woman activated teleportation the instant he was speaking and escaped. This woman's dignity had been torn down in that moment. It seems the woman ran away like a coward. Issei. The sword turned into wind and the boy looked at Asia with a warm gaze as he asked her to pick up one of the purchases and take those bags with her. Argento felt great strangeness and joy when he thought that he was free from his captors. Hyoudou sent a text message to Rias Gremory to notify her of the problem he had with the fallen angel, and the woman asked him to come see her and her group in the club room. We'll have to detour to an acquaintance of mine. Issei. The two arrived after several minutes to the hidden club room that had Akeno and Rias waiting for the two. Was a fallen angel in my territory? Rias. Yeah, they probably want something here besides this woman, because this city doesn't seem that interesting to me even though I live there and have traveled all over the world. Issei. Asia felt that her meeting with Hyoudou was something destined by the heavens, a way to ensure her safety and also find a person who could be a brother and even a husband in the future. I'll ask Hyoudou to investigate these victims, and I expect his cooperation if things go wrong. Rias. Does the girl know anything about the fallen? Akeno. The three quickly looked at Argento, who revealed everything he knew about their captors, revealed the number of people, the four they should be careful of, and also something that confused their minds. There's someone behind that. Issei. He probably did. Rias. Let's prioritize capturing the most dangerous elements. These elements are the three fallen, and the mad priest will give us information. Akeno. Hyoudou had a big doubt and turned to the blonde-haired woman to find out other information. Do you have any mystical powers or sacred equipment that would make them chase you? Issei. I have the ability to heal people, something I've had since birth. Asia. Gremory seemed very interested in the blonde-haired woman and wanted to add the same to her equipment. She very much wanted this healing power to use in the ranking game. I'll take her to be cared for and live normally at my house. I'd like Asia to enroll as a student if I could. I want to give her a normal life that she'll probably never experience. Issei. Argento was very grateful for this and Rias was also interested in doing this, since the chances of convincing the blonde-haired woman to join their group were higher at school. I'll be in your care, Issei-san. Asia. The two left while only the red-haired woman and her most trusted advisor remained, still staring at the door. He seems to be someone trustworthy. Akeno. Akeno was looking at Rias, who was still staring at the door while having some ideas in mind. The redhead was wandering with some things that always filled her thoughtful head. Would you save me if I were in danger too? Would you save me even if I wasn't human? Rias. The crimson-haired woman was thinking about her engagement to Razor, and Himejima understood this very well and felt very sorry. His life was being decided by his clan and by people who wanted to use him as a machine to give birth to children. The two young men were returning home, while Issei's parents were surprised to see him return with a woman, and soon the young man gave an excuse that he was homeless and also saved her from an abuser. My son has many adventures even when he's stuck in boring Kuo. Mickey. This guy doesn't stop until he turns the world upside down. Gord. But I'm glad we have Asia-chan to help take care of him now. Mickey. Asia-chan will be our salvation. Gord. Hyoudou's parents were treating the teenager like their own daughter, and even instructed her on the room she would be staying in and some other things while their son was preparing dinner. The brown-haired teen didn't want any help in the kitchen because he wanted to prepare a special meal just to surprise his parents, and even the new resident of the house with his amazing cooking. I hope you make good food so as not to tarnish my name. Archer. I only make good food, I don't make junk food. Issei. I deny you as my disciple if you make any food that is not good. Archer. The young man knew it was true that he learned to cook Mara with his teacher until he finally managed to do something that pays and then managed to become an excellent owner and cook. The brown-haired teenager was wearing a pink apron that he previously used to make food. He seemed to have lost some points of masculinity and became a little sexy and cute like that. Dinner was ready after several minutes, half an hour to be exact. The food smelled delicious and consisted of pork filet mignon and some meatballs made from the leftover meat. The food seems to be very good. Gord. My son really changed a lot on his journey. Mickey. Issei-san's cooking must be really tasty. I want to eat it. Asia. The four of them sat at the table to eat until something strange happened to the Hyoudou. A fifth table had appeared with a young man with blonde hair and red eyes in the kitchen as well. I'm this poor man's friend, and my name is Val. I'm here to enjoy the food, which seems to be the only good thing about it. Vale had heard his sources from the Fallen Angel movement, and then heard that his rival was preparing dinner, and decided to go pick up what he had prepared, finding his food much better than any fancy restaurant he had attended. Issei avoided flying at Val's throat, and his parents discovered that the two were actually friends when they saw the blonde and brown-haired boys exchanging insults like best friends. I think the only thing this guy really knows how to do is cook, because he's not good at anything else. Val. This guy is too loose to tell the truth. Issei. It's a shame we can't shoot an arrow down this unfortunate man's throat. Archer. The dinner happened, and it was very good even with Val's presence. The truth is that the blonde-haired hero behaved very well and told several stories of the things he and Issei did in Europe. The brown-haired hero's rival left after a while giving his friend/enemy a mocking smile, and the latter reciprocated with his middle finger pointing at him. Nothing much happened at dusk, except that Asia felt very strange about having a house and not living in the church in extreme poverty. The woman felt very happy when she thought about what she was experiencing. I think I died and I'm in heaven. Asia. The girl thought this was paradise, because it was everything she could ever want in her life. A family and a person she could trust, a group of people who were willing to give her something she didn't have as a girl abandoned at the door of a monastery. I hope this dream doesn't end soon, I'm really enjoying it. Asia. The former nun closed her eyes as a happy smile plastered across her face, wishing that all of this could last forever, that the excitement she felt now could continue for a long time and perhaps for eternity. Chapter 8. Hunting the Fallen. Issei and Asia were now heading to the occult club and ran into a person who had visited them last night. Hyoudou tried to jump on his throat, while he smiled and dodged him. Vale. Issei. It's a pain to see you even when you're not cooking. Vale. A golden portal materialized to launch a sword towards him, and the young man materialized Bakuya and Kansho to counter the sword as he moved forward to attack. The blonde-haired hero took a long sword in his hand as he used it to attack with a vertical slash from top to bottom. His brown-haired rival did a spin to dodge the blow, and their swords spun to make a horizontal circular slash on his upper body. The brave red-eyed warrior ducked to dodge the blow, and then moved his left leg in a swift kick towards the chest of his rival and enemy, who immediately defended himself with his hand and had to take a few steps back. Let's stop fighting now. I have better things to do here and discuss this with you and your partner. Val. The arrogant hero sat in a comfortable chair while Issei and Rias were in the other to find out what that man wanted when he arrived in Ko, and also to talk to the person he hated the most. What are your intentions in this city? Laughs. I found the mind behind that disgusting Blackwing thing. I'm here to catch it. Val. What's your danger level? Issei. It is classified as a Class A hazard at most. Val. Issei was too thoughtful because he thought that such a person coming to the city was a very bad thing. Rias and the others were confused about it. Rank A is the supreme class risk classification. Issei. Is there a terrifying enemy of this level in this medium-sized city? Laughs. This is a danger we can't face in normal or extreme situations. It's beyond our reach. Akeno. That's why I'm here to deal with this guy. Val. Issei was thinking about who could be one of the fallen angels. The young man had a list of the main members of the race and had already ruled out Azazel and others for being from the Mao class and some for being too pacifist or focused only on Gregory projects. This guy is Kokabiel? Issei. Yeah, that war freak is trying to pull some shit. Val revealed that Kokabiel was lurking in a place near Ko and was trying to do some things to trigger a war between the three factions. His target should be Rias and Sona to fight with the devils and the fallen. Can I go fight in your place? Issei. But aren't you just a Beerang? A person like a high-class devil? Laughs. I don't think he can handle that man with his current strength. Akeno. Maybe it's better to leave it to Val. Kiba. This is too dangerous for Senpai. Kaneko. Vala laughed when he saw Issei's friends worried about his safety, and then pointed at the brown-haired boy. I might even let you take my place on this mission if you fight me later. Val. Do I just need to fight you? Issei. I want you to use your ace up your sleeve, your trump card, for the battle we're about to have. Val. Hyoudou wondered if he would fight with his trump card, which he only used when things got extremely serious, and then thought that he really should if it would give him a chance to hunt Kokabiel. I hope you don't regret making me use my trump card. Issei. I'm excited for the day of our fight. I hope you catch that bastard soon. Vala left with the teleportation magic circle while laughing happily, finally able to prove that he was stronger than his brown-haired rival who always faced him head-on. What is this trump card? Laughter. A technique I use when I'm in extreme situations. Issei. I heard you sometimes did very dangerous missions around the world and they were supposed to be Class A. Your trump card is that it allows you to survive and complete them? Akeno. Correct, Akeno-san. Issei. The two women really wanted to see the trump card that had killed many powerful creatures they couldn't defeat. They were eager to see what kind of power could attract the attention of the famous blonde-haired hero who caused trouble everywhere. Are you sure you'll be safe? Asia. Asia was very worried about the boy who seemed to be going on a very dangerous adventure. The young man could only smile thinking that this was a little strange since he always embarked on dangerous adventures and no one knew what the others were doing, other than himself to worry. I think you've been closer to death than I can say. Kaneko. How many times have you been close to being killed on your missions? Laughs. Hyoudou continued to laugh awkwardly and decided to act only at night, while making tea and cookies to talk to everyone about some of his adventures in which he almost died. My second mission was one of the most dangerous I've ever had. I hunted an Oni and I was quite weak at the time. The yokai completely destroyed me and it only took a few hits for me to faint and die. I also faced a witch once. I think my death was certain if they didn't take me by surprise with great speed and precision. They cut my entire body. Issei. Hyoudou also told of an adventure he had facing some monsters from the Greek pantheon that escaped from Tartarus, and his body was almost torn to pieces. And also the time he faced a giant octopus that wanted to devour a city and one of its tentacles hit him. You almost broke every bone in your body. The group looked at the man with some doubts about whether he had any sanity after hearing such stories of his adventures. Why the hell do you take so many risks on adventures? Is fighting so good? Laughs. I don't understand how someone can take such risks just because they like to fight. Akeno. Issei started laughing as the two thought that he actually liked to fight. The others also looked at him like he was a suicidal idiot who fought because he loved to fight because of the way he talked. I don't fight because I like to fight. The truth is I hate killing and getting involved in conflicts. I say. So why fight? Laughs. The reason I fight is so I can fulfill my duty as a hero and save as many people as possible. I will use all my power and life to ensure the safety of people, regardless of whether they are human or not. I will always be on their side of justice, even bringing about my death. I say. The people were speechless as the young man happily went out to hunt Kokabiel. They thought that this man's ideal was quite suicidal and that he was crazy to risk his life for others who didn't even know him or know of his sacrifice. Archer looked at his disciple with mixed feelings, remembering the time when he was accused of several crimes and used as a scapegoat for various things, and yet he died with a smile. He's an idiot who puts himself at risk for others and leaves those around him hurt. Laughs. But he's like that, and that's why I love him so much. Asia. I'm surprised at how kind Issei-kun can be. Akeno. Kind to a fault, suicidal too. Kaneko. The group looked at the place where Hyoudou was with a little sadness, since heroes always had tragic destinies and very few of them could live a happy ending. The brown-haired youth was wearing an outfit very similar to Archer's as he wielded his black bow and faced an abandoned building with several people in it, who were hidden by several defensive circles. I wonder if sometimes I can live my life and stop being a hero. I say. It's not okay to be a 100% hero, because you're not supposed to protect the world, and you even need to live your life. Archer. I think sometimes more people might be dying because I'm not fighting hard enough. I say. Look at how many people you've saved and will save. Try to save yourself too, and don't get so caught up in saving others. Archer. It's true that I can't save others if I can't even save myself. I say. The two were laughing as they came to a tactical agreement to let go of their obsession with being a hero and also focus a little on their own personal lives. Hyoudou already had an idea of which arrow he would use to take down Kokabiel and his hideout. A spiral-bladed sword that looked more like a spear had materialized. This sword was being altered until it became a spiral-bladed arrow that had enormous destructive capacity if thrown, and was now being drawn into the black bow while concentrating magic. It's a good idea to use Kokabiel. Archer. She's the best I can use right now to destroy the magical defenses and catch that guy without using my trump card. I say. The young man with brown hair stared at that hiding place from miles away. He was on top of a building in the city while using his ability to accurately see the place he was going to shoot and destroy with his powerful arrow. I am the bone of my sword. I say. The arrow was already ready to be launched, and the hero's magical power was fully concentrated into the projectile, which was shot out in the next second with an extremely great force, one that tore through the air and everything in front of it. The ground was cracking just from being close to that terrifying arrow, and the explosion that such an attack caused sent the sound of an earthquake through several cities in Japan that were close to Kokabiel. I say. Issei's attack had completely pierced through the fallen's hideout's defensive barrier and rushed towards the direction where Kokabiel should have been closest, the explosion killing dozens of weaker people who were nearby while the stronger ones were severely injured by the extremely powerful impact it caused in the area. One person stood out amidst all that destruction. This person was a man with extremely pale skin and red sclerae and black hair. This man's name was Kokabiel, and the hero's main objective. The young man with brown hair approached at high speed while shooting several arrows at high speed from different directions towards the man who seemed to be still in shock from the blow, and therefore was hit in some non-fatal points such as the leg and an area of the stomach, which worsened his injuries. You're the damn one who did this. Kokabiel. Yes, I came looking for you because of your plans to start a new war and also for putting innocent people at risk. I say. The cadre decided that he should hesitate no longer and materialized the Sword of Light as he advanced towards the hero who had already materialized Bakuya and Kancho to fight him head-on. The light sword faced the two swords in a powerful clash of swords. The physical strength of the painting was much greater than that of his opponent, but his condition did not allow him to use his full strength, and his enemy did not fight in an unorthodox manner, as the swords exploded with the next two. Damn! Kokabiel. Kokabiel's chest suffered an X-shaped cut from the two swords that materialized again. The gloves had protected the hands of the warrior of humanity, and then he applied a kick after the cut. The fallen angel decided not to fight head-on due to his extremely worn-out state and formed a powerful spear several meters high in the sky. This spear had the same capacity as an atomic bomb to devastate a city if it fell to the ground, and this did not scare the hero. The young man moved his hand forward while singing the same chant he had used to summon Kokabiel. His magical power was materializing a shield in the shape of a pink flower to defend himself from that powerful spear with a destructive capacity greater than an atomic bomb. Row Ajax. Issei. The spear collided with the flower-shaped shield and destroyed some of the layers before exploding with a blast that only failed to destroy Ko due to the shield taking most of the damage to itself. That idiot is definitely dead. I'm the winner! Kokabiel. Kokabiel laughed a lot as he looked at the damage that had been done all over the place, and the various craters and cracks that had been made in the ground, the destruction that had turned a forest and several abandoned buildings into nothing more than a place filled with nothing but rubble and fire. His laughter stopped as both of his arms were severed in an instant. Bakuya and Kancho had been thrown like boomerangs as the fallen angel had given in to his own arrogance upon seeing the damage he had done. I'm still alive. Issei. The young man's body was severely injured as he was unable to perfectly materialize the Row Ajax due to how fast it had to be thrown and also because he wanted to absorb most of the damage and create a barrier to prevent Ko's city from being destroyed. A portion of his clothes were completely torn to shreds, and that portion showed the wounds he had received at that time from the spear, and his body had blood all over it, and he could barely stand. Impossible! Kokabiel. Kokabiel fainted the next moment due to madness and the injuries he was suffering. The fallen man had lost 2 arms and had been very seriously injured by the surprise shot that the hero had fired at him. Now it's time to collect my prizes. Issei. There's something we need to detect first. Archer. Archer was feeling a very intense holy energy that made him feel familiar. The archer soon saw that they were some fragments of Excalibur from a certain person he knew and then asked Hyoudou to copy them and keep them as well. He couldn't copy the weapon in perfect condition, but fragments of it can be copied. Issei looked very hurt in the occult club room with a Kokabiel missing both hands and very hurt. The boy threw him aside while the others were surprised at what he did. You need treatment. Asia. Let's help him soon. Laughter. Let me help you too. Akeno. The 3 quickly used healing magic on the brown-haired young man who was sitting on the couch as if he was still in perfect health. He was pretending that everything was fine until he closed his eyes to rest because he was very tired. That spear really was too terrifying. I did. But you managed to deal with him without using the trump card. Archer. He's not a person worthy of seeing our special ability. Issei. Vali had arrived to pick up the extremely injured Kokabiel, while he was excited to fight with Hyoudou, who defeated that fallen angel even without using all his special abilities and the one he wanted to see the most. Collected noble phantasms. Caliban. Issei collected a fragment of King Arthur's ancient sword and unlimited blade works, repaired it for use with Archer's knowledge of the real sword he had found before. Chapter 9. Infinite Swords vs. Infinite Treasures. Issei and Vali had agreed to fight the next day, at dawn the next day, and some people had gone to see the legendary battle between the 2 greatest heroes of the current era of humanity. Cao Cao had come with Arthur, Kuroka, Le Fay and Siegfried along with them. Rias's brother and current Mao had also come to see the legendary battle between the Dosi with Sarah Fall and Grafia accompanying him. Azazel was also in the audience to watch the battle between the 2 humans who were at the peak of power among humanity, and some others also came like Sona Citri and Sarorg Bale. I'll finally be able to see your trump card. I think Cao Cao wants to see it too. Val. I'm surprised even the angels came to follow our battle. I think that guy over there is Michael if I'm not mistaken. Issei. This is the greatest battle of all time, there's no way you don't want to see it. Val. Issei was smiling as his robes changed to activate the same suit his master used, and Vala did the same to change into a golden armor with a powerful aura. The two were dressed in suits and armor that strengthened their strengths and made them even more powerful, the balance breaker. I am the bone of my sword. Steel is my body and fire is my blood. I have created over 1,000 swords, Issei. Hyoudu's magical power was growing and manifesting as fire. It manifested as if it were a forge in fact, and seemed to be creating something new in the world and putting something that shouldn't be in that space. Unknown to death. Nor known to life, Issei. The forge was shaping a space that seemed to have swallowed everyone, enchanted by a landscape of infinite swords that continued to be forged without end. The sky was filled with white clouds. I have endured pain to create many weapons. However, those hands will never hold anything. So as I pray. Unlimited blade works. Issei. The blue sky had changed to an afternoon as the sun was setting and the swords were stuck in the ground of this landscape, and there seemed to be no end to them. A world made up only of swords. This is really the technique I wanted to see. This fight will be worth much more than fighting that idiot squad. Vala was smiling excitedly as he materialized dozens of golden magic circles. These magic circles possessed enormous power, as they demonstrated various magical treasures that could be called legendary. Those two are going to have a legendary fight. Surzek. I'm amazed by a reality marble, and also by a person who can face it so calmly. Azazel. I'm glad we made our preparations so nothing would leave this place. Miguel. The three leaders didn't act like they were enemies. They were actually enjoying the spectacle they were watching and had a great interest in the two heroes who were going to fight. Vala fired dozens of noble phantasms in the space of a second at a speed that easily surpassed light, and Hyoudou responded by materializing Bakuya and Kancho to dodge some and using materialized swords from Unlimited Blade Works to stop the others. The blonde hero's weapons were not copies and had their true power, unlike his opponents, which were only weakened copies, so he had to compensate with even more numbers. Issei moved at great speed while his enemy did not let him escape, and changed the direction where they should launch the weapons with great precision. Hyoudou did everything possible to escape, while space was constantly destroyed by these powerful and fast weapons. This really is a fight worth fighting. Val. He was really enjoying the battle, and so he advanced to the next level when he materialized weapons that could track and attack his opponent to make it difficult for him to escape, and this was noticed by the two-sword warrior when he dodged a sword and came back to stab him in the back. Issei no longer hesitated and materialized a two-handed sword that he used to destroy every projectile that had the function of following him with strength and technique, while the wind from his sword made cuts towards his enemy. I know that sword. Val. The one with the sacred gear of the king of Uruk quickly dodged the slashes by materializing a powerful shield from his treasure, while admiring the slash that had been given to him, and that could actually pierce through his armor due to the skill of that sword. You actually managed to get your hands on Ascalon. Val. I found it in a witch's lair, a sword I rarely use. Issei. It's a good sword. Val. Let's see who can play the most in the projectile duel. Issei. Hyoudou was smiling as he materialized hundreds of projectiles at the same time towards the hundreds of noble phantasms possessed by his red-eyed rival. The two of them waved their hands for the fight to resume. The fight was being dominated by Vala mainly due to his superior power noble phantasms, but the Unlimited Swords hero was not intimidated by this as he gave the order to his copies to explode upon collision. A normal person wouldn't be able to unleash a noble phantasm alone to generate overwhelming power, as it was an immeasurable treasure that would be worth far more than a country. But Issei's ability was to create copies and create noble phantasms that allowed him to use this power tactic to offset the firepower because they are just copies. The gates of Babylon responded to their master by increasing their number even more to compensate for the explosions their enemy made with infinite swords, and see how they would react at that moment. We can't continue with this tactic. My magic power is limited and far inferior to yours. Issei. Let's use our close combat skills as an advantage to excel in battle. Archer. That's the only option if we want to win, right? Issei. But to be honest, it's pretty suicidal, very suicidal. Archer. The two laughed as they began to move forward at high speed, Ascalon swaying from side to side at high speed to prevent his master from taking further damage and getting closer. That guy won't come near me. Val. We cannot allow them to come near us. Gilgamesh. Let's increase the number to thousands. Val. Vala was thinking of cornering Issei by launching thousands of noble phantasms at the same time, and every second, the young man responded by activating his magical power to the limit and forcing his body to give it its all in every blow and sword movement. It seems like it's overloading you. Val. I would have been surrounded and defeated by now if it weren't for Ascalon. Gilgamesh. The Hyoudou chose to materialize more and more swords while deactivating the sword and materializing the black bow he used in ranged combat. A sword with a spiral blade and a blue handle had materialized. I am the bone of my sword, Issei. The Calibald was spinning and forming a projectile as it was placed on the string of the powerful black bow. Hyoudou's magic power was increasing as he rushed to dodge every weapon that approached him and concentrated on using his deadly technique. Calibald. Issei. The young man had positioned himself far away from his enemy on his reality marble. The swords that aimed for lethal positions were stopped with blasts from their copies, while only a few managed to pierce his body at the moment he stopped to shoot his powerful arrow towards his blonde-haired rival. The weapons that hit him were not in lethal places. They were in his back and part of his stomach and leg, damage that could be considered high, but that would not hinder his fight much compared to the other options. The spiral projectile was launched at high speed, and unexpectedly when Vala thought he could have stopped it by piercing his leg and altering his posture. But it was his mistake, and now the powerful copy of Calibald came to pierce him. A huge sword materialized near Vala that had the name Igialima. This giant sword was quickly thrown towards its projectile in a mighty clash of powerful weapons. The sword and the arrow collided, generating a magical explosion that generated a huge wind and explosion. This explosion was much more powerful than the destructive power of Kokabiel with his enormous and compressed spear of light, and should not even be compared. Looks like I won the clash of weapons. Val. The Igialima had managed to overcome the Calibald's power and destroy it as it headed towards Hyoudou, who launched another arrow with his bow and dodged it at the last moment, using some copies of famous swords to gain a millisecond to escape. That won't help. Val. The blonde hero easily dodged the arrow that pierced the wind and had enormous magical power, but he regretted not looking back the moment the arrow returned to penetrate him from behind. That miserable commoner really managed to hurt me. Val. I wouldn't let you accept the fight without getting hurt, Val. Issei. You really are worthy of being my opponent. Val. You're really too powerful, so you have to use my trump card. Issei. Issei decided that he would use the sword he had obtained in the fight against Kokabiel, and that it should be the most powerful in his arsenal so far. A sword with enormous sacred power had materialized very quickly in his hand and was very beautiful, and with a value worthy of king's decorations. Caliban had returned to the world. I'm looking forward to our fight and its outcome. Val. The golden-haired hero raised his magical power even further and launched a powerful projectile that passed through the air and the ground at the same time. Hyoudou saw that it was the prototype of Calibald and decided not to face it head-on, choosing to dodge while running to catch up with your enemy. I'll reach you with this sword, my most powerful sword. Issei. The hero who forged countless swords was concentrating his power into the sword that King Arthur used before Excalibur. This sword was responding by manifesting a powerful holy power that further enchanted his opponent, who thought he had finally found an equal. I truly love every second of this fight. This is an honor I must cherish. Val. The chains with the name of Gilgamesh's best and only friend were activated. They tirelessly pursued the young man who carried that sacred sword and who dodged them without trying to touch them and be tied up. Kid's chains moved forward rapidly to try to catch him, and he jumped forward and sideways to dodge, and even materialized swords so he wouldn't get caught, and supporting magic circles so he could make a second jump while still in the position. Vala's noble phantasms were increasing in intensity, and he wasn't just using the chains, He was using his weapons with a tracking function that bothered the boy and forced him to destroy them with a blow of the holy sword. The tracking weapons had done their job by forcing him to take a step back and even held him still for a millisecond until he didn't care about having part of his body hurt or torn again, and charged forward as if he were a trail of light. The golden-haired, red-eyed hero's noble phantasms were unable to finish Issei off, as they were always counterattacked by their clones or his powerful sword. They could only be used to scratch and wound his body superficially, leaving him covered in minor injuries. His failure to do so could turn the tide of this battle and be a decisive step. "Looks like I got you, Vali," Issei. "I'm glad the fight didn't end just like that. Let's continue our legendary battle between two heroes." Issei. Lucifer's descendant quickly materialized a two-handed sword with features very reminiscent of Caliban. This sword was a prototype of the weapon that would bear the name Durandal and was used by Roland, one of Charlemagne's 12 warriors. The two weapons collided as their owners smiled. Caliban delivered a powerful vertical slash from top to bottom, and Durandal used a vertical slash from right to left in the clash between powerful sacred weapons. The sacred energy of the two weapons generated a powerful light that blinded all those watching the battle from afar. Durandal had the advantage of being a grade higher than Caliban, but the wielder of the other sword was more skilled than his enemy. The clash ended with Issei taking damage from holy energy due to Durandal being more powerful than Caliban, and this did not make him retreat, but instead made him continue clashing their weapons again. "I'm dying to see what twist this time will bring. Vali. I'm going to bring the greatest comeback of all, your defeat. Issei. Show me this with actions. Vali." The Caliban had charged with holy power again and delivered a horizontal slash that traveled even in the air as if it were a crescent-shaped glow towards the golden-haired hero, who was destroyed with a vertical slash from the Durandal that crushed him with brute force and superior holy power. The clash of the two swords in the distance was like a beacon illuminating an entire city. The people who saw the brilliance of these two powerful swords colliding were amazed. The Hyoudou used his superior swordsmanship to corner his opponent and land a few blows that tore off some of the flesh on his arm, pierced his leg with a sword thrust, and struck him in the stomach with the pommel. Vali used the superior power of his weapon to be able to suppress Issei with the power of his weapon and his own power. The clashes of holy energy always ended with his opponent being injured by the superior power of the golden-haired hero, and this caused him to spit out blood several times and even almost fall down once. The mighty sword used by King Arthur before using Excalibur made several slashes in the air while charged with holy energy. These slashes generated countless slashing crescents that were crushed by a single slash from the mighty Durandal. The brown-haired hero moved forward while making more crescent-shaped cuts to get even closer, and the golden-haired hero moved closer while making cuts that were like extermination lasers. The clash of long-range slashes ended with Hyoudou winning because their numbers were greater than their enemies' powers and unparalleled slashes. The crescent moons managed to make several wounds in the blonde's armor, and made his blood spill onto the ground again when they cut his flesh. Out by such power. This confrontation exceeded my expectations. I didn't think a half-breed like you could force me to do so much, and even hurt me more than once. Vali. I think you can feel the taste of death approaching with every sword clash we have, with every new clash we have. Issei. I'd say it's a lie if it wasn't, because I feel like death is trying to catch me with every new confrontation between us. Vali. This is truly the best fight I've ever had. Issei. I can say the same. Vali. The two of them concentrated their magical powers into their swords and rushed forward as if they were beams of light to collide and illuminate the battlefield once again, but this time the light continued to explode and increase in size. Hyoudou attacked with a powerful slash that tore the air and ground at the same time from the vertical bottom up, while Vali attacked with a slash from top to bottom, and caused a huge crater to appear in a radius of 100 meters and cracks for several kilometers, enough to cover a city. The Durandal spun to crush with a torrent of holy light that seemed to come from the heavens, and the Caliban did not retreat when forced by its master, and its holy power seemed to burst from the life of the earth and rise to the heavens. The two clashed in the air with several rounds of sword strikes between powerful swordsmen and masters of the art of the sword, who had maximum weapons and skills. The first blow was delivered by the young chestnut-haired man, attempting to cut his enemy's chest area, who responded with a defense supported with both hands and then attacked with the snitch on his belly to return the blow. The second blow was Vali attempting to cut Issei's stomach area and causing his intestines to spill out in a lethal slash, which was stopped by an Ascalon materializing in his other hand and then by Caliban attacking with the other as if it were a sword and heading towards his opponent's chest again. Damn bastard! Vali used part of his hand as protection due to the powerful protection of the armor, and thus prevented the blow from becoming lethal even if it had hit his upper body and cut the flesh of his right arm without detaching it from his body. The third strike was the golden-haired hero furiously attacking with his sword and all the holy energy he could use, which was aimed at completely swallowing his rival once and for all and declaring his victory, which was countered when he forged another copy of Caliban in his hand to increase the power, and thus retaliate with even more power than his body and weapon could handle. The blonde had the top of his armor completely destroyed by the absurd power of 2 copies of Caliban, and this threw him off, sending him sinking into a city-sized crater the two had made while trading blows. Issei's state as he forced himself to materialize a sword of this grade in his other hand was one of extreme tiredness, and he was breathing heavily as he waited for Vali to be defeated. I won't lose! Vali felt excited about this fight and thought that he would finally be able to use everything. He would only have one more chance, and this time he would use his strongest weapon and the one he wanted to use so much. But he never had the chance because it was a weapon that few could resist or force him to use. This half-breed will be excited about what's about to happen next. Gilgamesh. The air of the entire battlefield trembled. An extremely terrifying and destructive energy filled all of Unlimited Blade Works and came from the place where the golden-haired hero had fallen. Seriously, Issei. Issei used all the remaining strength he had to perform a powerful holy blow with all the strength he could draw from his body. He was trying to crush his enemy with a blow that seemed like a punishment coming directly from the heavens to purge the sinners and heretics. The brown-haired hero's blow was crushed into just one sharp slash that had also shattered his 2 powerful swords, and that surprised him and Archer a lot since they had never seen this weapon in reality. We have to dodge! Issei/Archer. The two didn't even react when an abnormal sword that didn't seem capable of cutting anything had pierced their stomach in a blow that marked the end of the duel when they lost all their strength. I won. Issei fell to the ground as his golden-haired rival's weapon pierced through his body and destroyed his swords, leaving him with no way to defend himself but to accept defeat and fall to the ground unconscious. You won't be able to stand even if you win due to the light and heavy wounds and the summoning of my most powerful weapon. Gilgamesh. Vali completely lost consciousness in the next second as his master said that he would completely lose consciousness after being pushed to an extreme he had never been pushed before after receiving this legendary power from the King of Heroes. Unlimited Blade Works dissolved the moment the two fell to the ground, and those following the fight were amazed by the enormous power the two had displayed as the pinnacle of humanity and the new generation. This new generation is really powerful. Surzek. I am astonished by the power that surpassed what I expected. Azazel. I think the future will be very exciting. Miguel. The 3 of them laughed, while Chow Chow looked in amazement at his 2 rivals and founders of the Heroes Guild. He too wanted to fight and show everything he could after seeing such a display of powers. Now the power of our guild will extend to all, and no one will dare underestimate us. But we need support that can withstand even the gods, lest we be enslaved by the will of these bastards. Chow Chow. Chow Chow was thinking about a problem that had arisen at that time, the desire of the gods to obtain new toys to fulfill their wishes, which were extremely strange. Chapter 10. The Recovery. Issei had woken up in his bed after a few days of sleeping because of the fight with Vali. The young man was surprised to see a small blonde woman next to him, and sleeping in the same bed. I had a great fight. Issei. First time I've used Unlimited Blade Works and I don't win. Archer. Vali was an absurdly powerful opponent, he wouldn't be easy to defeat. Issei. None of our opponents found it easy to tell the truth. Archer. Hyoudou quickly stood up as he materialized a pink apron and oven mitts, The young man was very excited to enter the kitchen after several days of doing nothing and just sleeping. The brown-haired teen made some calls to Rias, Akeno, Kaneko, and Kiba to try his food. Vali and Chow Chow also came after calling the two of them despite the hero hating his rival. The boy was very focused on preparing desserts with chocolate and white chocolate, and he didn't forget to prepare the meats, which he used beef and pork to prepare the most varied and delicious dishes. Let's prepare perfect dishes, I say. I taught you very well, my disciple. Archer. They both smiled a lot and were very excited while stirring the pot and the ingredients, both considering housework a pleasure that surpassed any woman and the lust that could be in front of them, or imagine. Rias and Akeno were the first to arrive, Kiba was the second, and Kaneko and Chow Chow arrived at the same time. Vali was one of the last to arrive at the residence, which was filled with an absolutely delicious smell. I think one of the only things he's really good at is cooking. Vali. His cooking is almost divine. Chow Chow. I haven't tried much of their food yet. Laughs. Their food is ridiculously good. Asia. Senpai knows how to make sweets. Kaneko. Right now she's preparing sweets for dessert after the main meal. Asia. I think she'd make a great housekeeper. Akeno. It would be hard to find a woman who could arrest him. Vali's speech caught the attention of everyone in the room as he seemed to know something about his brown-haired rival's love life. The women asked him to explain his words. I heard he's having an affair with a mother-daughter pair of white-coated werewolves. The half-breed seems to have killed his family and a bunch of other people after they defecated as a hunting ritual. Val. Do you have anything else? Asia. I also heard that a succubus once poisoned him with a strange aphrodisiac that would affect him from time to time, then made him stay with this mother and daughter pair, made him also stay with humans, vampires, yokai until the aphrodisiac finally worked out. Val. Asia felt a huge pang of sadness upon hearing this and cursed the succubus. The others laughed after hearing the bad luck the brown-haired hero had with the succubus's aphrodisiac on one of his hunts. How did the creation of the Heroes Guild come about? Laughs. Gremory asked something everyone wanted to know, the founding of a group that was becoming very prominent by being associated with the magicians, and now a possible alliance with the three factions. Issei had killed a witch in some country near the Norse domains when he was contacted by Mephisto. The president of the association wanted him in his group to obtain certain benefits in a relationship where both chose to share these benefits with his equals. Create an association to protect humanity, as he did alone but with rewards like in fantasy games and isekai novels. Chow Chow. Chow Chow explained that the guild system was basically created by him and Issei, while Vali cooperated in his own way and helped a lot in setting certain rules for the group and also in expanding it. I heard that the three of them are greatly feared by everyone in the supernatural world. Those with questionable behavior no longer dare to do anything for fear of being eliminated from the guild. Akeno. I'm surprised you even kill humans. The only rule you set in the Hero Guild is not to do evil with your supernatural powers or you'll be hunted. Kiba. Kiba seemed to harbor admiration for the group that had hunted down the group's former mentor who imprisoned him in his childhood. The mad priest seemed to be trying to produce more designs of the sacred sword and end the world. Perhaps you can join our group later, as I believe an alliance with the three factions is a great benefit to us. Chow Chow. It will be fun to have other people of other races participate, in addition to some exceptions we've allowed so far. Val. The Hero Guild now only had humans and the exceptions that participated were yokais or half-breeds. The yokais were only two and they were called Biko and Kuroka. They were from Vala's group and that was why they were allowed to enter. There were many mixed-race people and it was not possible to identify them all. The blood of other races or even of gods that had been diluted for generations was something that gave them enormous strength and increased the power of the group. Hyoudou had arrived with the food that made everyone drool. The food was ready and they could barely contain themselves from jumping on it and devouring everything in front of them. The young man with brown hair was in charge of serving the food into each person's plate. I think the last mission I took was a few days ago on my weekend. It was one to kill ancient Egyptian monsters that were cursing people. Issei. My last mission was to hunt a kraken that was destroying ships and spreading things that shouldn't be known. Val. My last job was to kill a demigod from the Norse pantheon and descendant of Loki who used sorcery to collect souls and do terrible things in the human world. I almost didn't win. Chow chow. Issei and Vala looked at Chow Chow with much pity, as they both hated the job of killing a demigod and almost died several times in this kind of work. Do you also hunt demigods? Laughs. Yeah, and the gods aren't very happy when we do that and almost die in the fight. Issei. Those stupid half-breeds think they can escape punishment just because they have a divine father or ancestor? We kill everyone equally, regardless of whether the father is God or not. Vala was one of the most frequent recipients of this type of service, and one of the most hated because he found it extremely irritating when a god came to try to kill him for killing his son or daughter. Which gods have you provoked so far? Akeno. Ares, Aphrodite, Poseidon, Loki, Hel, Phri, Anubis, Osiris, Seth, Tsukuyomi, Izanagi, Izanami, Gaia, Tartarus, Hypnos, Amor and some others we don't remember. Val. I remember hunting down a descendant of Thor who blew up cities with his thunder for the pure pleasure of testing his power. Issei. I already killed a son of Zeus who isolated an entire city with his magic and tried to grape everyone in the city, regardless of whether they were men, women, children, or even animals. Chow chow. The Gremory group and the others were very grateful for the work of those three in hunting demigods when they talk about the amount of trouble they caused and left them speechless with the damage that even ended in the destruction of islands or countries. These guys dared to provoke the divine to protect the world. What admirable guys! Kiba. Issei-san is so beautiful. Asia. Asia was thinking that Hyoudou looked very happy and handsome as he continued to tell stories of his adventures. Chow Chow and Vali also started telling stories of their adventures to amuse everyone. The night was very long and filled with smiles from all sides, who discovered how important and exhausting the work of the Heroes Guild was, hunting down even the demigods who abused their power, hunting mythological monsters that could wipe out a country or even devour a large island in one bite. Chapter 11: The Hero and the Phoenix. Issei was returning from an extremely dangerous mission after arriving on Sunday. This mission consisted of killing a powerful descendant of Jormungandr who was causing extreme chaos in the seas and was getting out of control, so even the media was called into action in this case. The brown-haired hero was swallowed by the snake when fighting on the high seas and had to go out to kill it from the inside out. The way he did it was very visceral, and he had to be quick as the poison in his body could kill him. Getting out of the giant snake's body was extremely bad, and he was very tired due to the poison affecting him prematurely, and also the tension in the belly of the huge snake, which was several tens of meters long, and could have been much bigger than a multi-story building. I hated it. Issei. But it was a Class A mission. Only 3 people have the rank and power to complete it. Archer. Hyoudou's rank had been upgraded to A after his unlimited blade works was shown to the world, as Chow Chow had to re-evaluate his trump card that made him reach the supreme level of power, and which he did not want to reveal. I want a drink to calm my nerves. Issei. The brown-haired young man was sitting at a table in a tavern that had a beautiful blonde-haired assistant. This woman was Le Fei, who commanded the headquarters and mission area of the Hero Guild. I'll give it to you in a moment. Le Fei. 2 other people had arrived with an extremely tired mind like Hyoudou. These 2 people were Vala and Chow Chow, who had also returned from a mission, and one was dangerous due to their current state. We'll want one too. Val. Mission Hell. Chow Chow 0. The 3 of them took the drink they used to calm down, and also to get rid of all the stress they had on the guild missions. Another demigod went to do some shit, and became Loki's son again. That retard was manipulating several countries in decadent conditions, and with few means to fight each other and offer their souls as homage to his father. Val. What happened? Chow Chow. Chow Chow remembered that these missions to hunt demigods never ended well, and Vala's condition proved that it had really not ended well for him. I killed the bastard, and his divine father sent Bucking Fenrir to hunt me down. I almost died in that shit. Vala ordered another beer as he recalled Fenrir's pursuit of him. who could do nothing but run without defending himself uselessly. I had a very tense problem with an Ammit who escaped from the underworld of the Egyptian pantheon to try to devour the souls of the living. That creature is a powerful horror, and this monster from hell almost devoured my soul. Chow Chow. Chow Chow shuddered as he recalled the feeling of having his soul ripped from his body and nearly devoured by a giant, hideous monster, one that had extremely terrifying features. 2 more people joined and they were rank B. These 2 people were Arthur Pendragon and Biko, who seemed to be extremely exhausted from a mission, and the other 3 chose to listen to their problems. Do you know what it's like to deal with a rampaging Chinese white tiger? A pure-blooded descendant of a sacred beast that's on the same level as a divine being? This stupid beast, Biko, and I teamed up to kill it after a tough battle and changed the terrain of the area we fought in. Arthur. That plague was very fast and bloodthirsty. Its problem was also that it could regenerate by absorbing blood and vitality from its victims while becoming even stronger. Biko. We had to go into a suicide battle to win, and we almost died. Arturo. The trio thought it was really difficult, and each of the hero guild told their troubles today in the quests, and how they almost died when fighting against descendants of legendary beasts, or the legendary beasts themselves. The night had ended with a big party to cheer up everyone who was very tired and annoyed from the missions in which they almost died and reached death's door, only to not make it in due to very little luck. The young man with brown hair was returning home after spending the night, since Asia lived with him, and the girl was very worried about his mental and physical health after learning that he was leaving for missions abroad. Have you ever thought about taking her? Archer. She's too weak to follow me and would die at the first blow from a beast I can't handle. Issei. He needs a lot of training if he wants to have a chance of fighting alongside you. Archer. You need a lot of training to at least dodge and hide, since it wouldn't be very good if you had to fight some danger and protect yourself at the same time. Issei. Hyoudou didn't have much time to worry about taking care of others when he barely knew if he would be able to return alive from his missions where he faced beasts of enormous danger that could easily wipe out a city in a breath or less. Issei-san is safe. Asia. Asia was overjoyed when she saw her first friend and co return safely. She felt much more at ease knowing that she managed to complete her mission of saving some people from a sea serpent with an extraordinary bloodline and returned to her. Looks like you were drinking. Asia. The woman could smell the alcohol on her love interest, and began to raise her eyebrows when she thought he might have slept with some woman when he did. I didn't stay with anyone that night, I just drank with my friends and went to sleep. Issei. The blonde started looking into their eyes to see if it was true and soon discovered that it was and smiled at that moment because she didn't have to worry about another woman spending the night with him. Let's get ready for school. Asia. Hyoudou quickly gathered his clothes after showering. Argento had already left everything separated for his return, and the only thing he really needed was to take a shower to wake up and also to get rid of his laziness. Issei and Asia's classes went on normally. The young man even felt very intimidated and began to take his apron out of his wardrobe to have it ready to use the moment he went to the occult club room. Asia was very happy and thought if she could help the brown-haired boy when they left. The result is that they both left when everything was over with the aprons on their clothes and headed to the kitchen of the occult club room. Hyoudou and Argento seemed to ignore the extra presence in the club and went straight to the kitchen, the two of them not caring much when something was none of their business, and it didn't bother them. The young teenager decided to prepare some drinks and cookies for everyone to enjoy, even those visitors who seemed hostile, as he was someone very polite and never lacked hospitality. The process of making all of this even with the acceleration of magic took 20 to 30 minutes where you could hear Rias and the others' screams the entire time they were both cooking. You can't cook with that yelling, lower your voice. Issei. The eyes of a blonde-haired girl trembled with fear as she seemed to see a walking horror movie in front of her, clearly recognizing the image of the famous monster hunter who killed anyone who stepped out of line with the supernatural. Looks like you've got quite the monster here. Tangle. Razor was staring at that man who had caught his sister's attention until they explained who he was, and that's why he also began to tremble in fear at the presence of that person in the room. The food is ready. Asia. Asia and Issei began serving the food while everyone seemed to calm down and recover their spirits with the presence of the hero, which was quite intimidating for those who did not know him personally. I didn't know you'd hired the famous monster hunter for your party. Lifter. He's my hired magician, and that makes us partners. Laughs. Rias was very proud of her group and also of having signed a mage and demon contract with Issei, one of the most talented heroes and mages of modern times. The cookies are very good. Tangle. The tea is also top-notch. Lifter. The two had completely lost their arrogance after tasting the food and also when they were in the presence of someone who was like a knife to the neck of any supernatural creature that stepped out of line. I appreciate that you enjoyed my desserts and drinks. I'm actually very happy to be praised for my reasonable skills in this field. I say. The teenager who was part of the Hero Guild was just looking at the two groups until Razor started talking again about a marriage that the elders created between him and Rias. I'm marrying someone I love, not someone who was chosen to be an incubator for a new generation of high-class devils. Laughs. Rias became very angry at the thought that she was being used to give birth to children who would probably also be used for the same purpose, that of being incubators or weapons of war for their blood, power, and talent. It's not me who decides whether to get married or not. Lifter. Razor wasn't being arrogant, and explained that he wasn't the one who decided this even though he didn't complain about getting married because of Rias Gremory's beauty and body, one that amazed him greatly. I'm going to have a serious conversation with my brother and the others to resolve this. Laughs. I hope so. I don't like having to marry a woman who doesn't accept me and will probably resent me for the rest of her life. Lifter. Razor may have looked and acted like a criminal, but he was actually a very caring man with his loved ones and who had his own moral values that should not be exceeded. Thanks for understanding this. Laughter. Razor said goodbye with a magic circle as the redhead looked at Issei with gratitude, as his presence meant that the two could have a civilized conversation based on fear and intimidation. I really didn't want to be in your shoes, having to marry someone you've never met before and don't love. I say. But I'm not going to marry him at all. I'm going to marry someone who loves me. Laughs. I hope you can have your freedom, and I'll be willing to help you if you need help. I say. Hyoudou had returned to the kitchen to wash the dishes while leaving Rias and her servants to talk about what would happen. A maid named Graphia had appeared to explain something about the wedding to Gremory. The maid had notified that a rating game would be played between Rias versus Razor so they could cancel or continue the wedding. Rias' victory would be an annulment, and Razor's would be a continuation of the engagement. The redhead was very nervous when comparing the two teams even though she had recently added Asia to her group, since they had less numbers and also they couldn't add Issei because he wasn't a devil and didn't want to be one. You'd better prepare some proper training for your servants and yourself. It won't be easy to win. I say. I'll prepare something that's good for both parties, mine and theirs. Laughs. The woman was very thoughtful as she exchanged a few words with the brown-haired young man and then went to talk to Akeno about the instructions they would take next. We need a secluded spot so we can use our full power in training. Laughs. I think we also need to become extremely powerful if we want to have a chance. Akeno. Razor's team is almost professional, and their power is very strong even among the upper class. It won't be easy to win. Laughs. The truth is that victory seems quite impossible. Akeno. But we'll create a miracle. I'm sure there will be a miracle if we try hard enough to change the situation. Laughter. The woman was putting all her strength into an effort to train and reach a level where she could win the fight. The brown-haired hero was excited to see the determination of the people in the room. Kiba was wanting to cut anything with his sword while Kaneko clasped her hands together to show that her strength was insufficient, and she needed too much. Akeno was smiling but with a glimmer of madness in her eyes, and Rias remained calm on the surface and turbulent inside. I'm going to love watching this fight between the two sides. I say. Issei decided not to do a mission on the day of the fight since he really wanted to see the result and the determination that all the Gremorys had to prove it and reverse the fate that his teacher had. Chapter 12: The Training. Issei was on top of a mountain and hiding while he accompanied Rias and moved them to a training house. Gremory decided to use one of their residences in the normal world to train, and it was quite luxurious when you looked at it. Are you going to observe the training? Goalkeeper. I'm going. Issei. Hyoudou remained silent for the rest of the day to observe what the training regimen made for Rias would be like, and then felt quite disappointed with said training, as they were good for a long regimen, but were not suitable for gaining more strength in a short time and beating Razor. The young man with brown hair was seeing that the woman's state was so disturbed that it did not allow her to use her intelligence effectively, and her enormous love for her servants did not allow her to plan a hard and effective training. I guess we can call it exercise. Archer. That's my morning exercise. Issei. The two heroes revealed themselves in the morning as they surprised everyone. The redhead was also very surprised that he had come without being called, and also that he had apparently seen the previous things. What did you think of our training? Laughs. A failure. Issei. Rias lowered her head when she realized that she would really be a failure, but she soon became excited when she thought that she might have a chance at winning if this man in front of her helped her train. Did you come here to laugh in our faces or help us? Laughs. Both. Issei. Hyoudou laughed as he said this and was amused to see the crimson-haired Gremory's puffed-out cheeks. Akeno was laughing as she said her typical One Issei catchphrase, "Era era." I'm warning you that training is going to be brutal, and it'll start now. Issei. The young man's clothes were the same as his master's and his aura had increased by many degrees. His hands were open to grab two swords that he liked very much, the yin and yang colored swords, Akuya and Kancho. There are 14 days left in the ranking game, and you'll be using 12 of those days to fight me as a group. You'll have to outlast me for 12 days, then rest on the 13th. Issei. The brown-haired young man laughed a lot thinking about the fight he was going to have, and the whole group was nervous about the monster in front of them. Rias was also scared and almost reconsidered helping. We're going to die. Akeno. I'm sorry I asked you for help. Laughs. In a way, I lived a good life. Kiba. I wish I had eaten more of Senpai's sweets. Kaneko. He's not going to kill me anyway. Asia. The first day of training began with the young man attacking Rias, who was defended by Kiba and Kaneko, to which Akeno used lightning to make his movement on the battlefield more difficult, but the difference in sword skills between the Gremory Knight and the hero was too great, allowing them to open a gap and incapacitate him while sending the Nikomata flying with a kick. Akeno and Rias were treated in the next second as if it was just a flash at high speed. Both of them had lost consciousness in that instant to be defeated. Heal them so we can start this over. Issei. Hello? Asia. Issei intended to use others' wounds to train Asia, so he didn't hold back in order for her healing to improve. The only thing he had to do that was truly special was to dull the blades of his swords so they wouldn't cut and simply hurt like a hard stick. Rias and her group were slaughtered with the same methods multiple times over the course of 3 days. The brown-haired youth wouldn't let them sleep. They had to run away from him in order to sleep and had to be constantly alert of his presence so they wouldn't fall asleep. Your training is too tough. Laughs. But it's very effective. My skills are growing because of the crisis I feel. Kiba. My magic is also reaching a very high level. Akeno. I can't complain about my increasing power either, and I think it requires extreme methods to evolve quickly. Kaneko. I'm glad you praised me, so I'll make it a little easier for you. Issei. The group trembled as they watched that smiling shadow with black and white swords advancing towards them. The resilience each one showed on that third day was astonishing. Yuto Kiba only lasted 10 seconds at most in an armed confrontation against Hyoudou, and now he lasted 1 minute. Kaneko could only last 5 seconds and increased to 30, while Akeno and Rias managed to fight at long distance and lasted 10 seconds against the hero up close. The group had to fight together to be able to show resistance, or the two-edged swordsman would defeat them even more easily, since the time described above was if they attacked as a group. An attack from just one is even faster to immobilize. The brown-haired swordsman had come out very happy from this fight after leaving everyone unconscious and with many wounds by healing Asia, who was also exhausted from having to heal the group more than 20 times a day. I'm so tired of healing them, my magic power is about to run out. Asia. As the days went by, everyone's abilities grew, as did their stamina. But there was no point in using force alone against someone so much stronger. Tactics had to be used to buy time, and they had to be tactics with a winning mindset, or Hyoudou would end this in an instant. Gremory's use of the power of destruction had increased greatly, and was now able to fight properly in close combat against a powerful person, and very well at long range. Akeno was at the same level, or a little lower than her friend. Hyoudou was progressing very well with the swords under the extremely harsh tutelage of the hero, who took every opportunity to defeat him as quickly as possible while helping him improve. Kaneko was also improving in hand-to-hand combat, and seemed to have revealed her true nature when she felt very threatened and thus used all her power. Hyoudou forced her to fight with this power if she didn't want to get hit. An even worse beating than the others. Issei always tried to give advice to his training partners when he fought one of them so that they could use their techniques and magic more accurately than before trading blows. It had been 1 week. This week was enough for the group to be able to maintain a full 2-minute fight with him, and this was a great joy for everyone before being knocked out by the wizard's swords. Everyone's reflexes were being highly trained with magic-powered arrows from their favorite archer. These arrows were pointless, but they exploded with an impact that they really wished had a point. The strange thing is that the arrows could be launched from several kilometers away, so everyone had to learn to be very alert, and also to be able to detect surprise attacks. The lover of justice was training all the aspects that could be trained by his friends. He was training stealth skills, group and solo combat skills, and also danger detection and stealth attacks from far and near. The result of 12 days of hellish training was enough to mold everyone into battlefield-ready and experienced warriors, so the final day was decided to rest. The group had developed an extremely great trauma from the attacks of their fellow mages, a trauma that made them feel unsafe even in the safest place in the world for fear of those swords and arrows. Issei was wearing his kitchen apron and also his gloves. Both were pink, and he was extremely cute as he concentrated on cooking. He didn't look like that crazy person who would come from hell looking for you. I'm much stronger. Laughs. I think this formation was what we needed. Akeno. I feel like I'm going to have trouble sleeping for a few days after this. Kiba. I'll be fine as long as I eat senpai's sweets. Kaneko. I'm very tired, I'm dry. Asia. The whole group sat at a table as they talked about their training experiences and wondered about Hyouda's own training, and soon discovered that he didn't want to know any more about it. Issei must have invaded the deepest part of hell and fought Lucifer himself to be so crazy. Laughs. I think he wasn't satisfied with that, and ended up going to Tartarus to play hide-and-seek with the prisoners there. They say they all tremble when they hear his name. Kiba. I heard he went to Cocytus to see if it was really cold, and thought it was warm. Akeno. Once she went to Phlegethon to bathe while appreciating the souls of sinners. Kaneko. The whole group was laughing at the thought that Hyoudou Issei was worse than the devil. They were making up conspiracy theories about how the brown-haired young man was Lucifer Morningstar's teacher, and that he taught the devil everything he needed to know about how to be evil. Is it just me, or are they calling me Satan? Issei. You get used to it. Archer. Archer recalls the times he was mistaken for Satan because of his red clothing and extremely tough personality. Archer really disliked being mistaken for that figure, and was powerless to do anything against these people. Hyoudou decided to pretend he didn't hear anything and just focus on the food while the Gremory group made up more conspiracy theories about him being Satan, the original Satan, and also the guy who taught Satan how to be Satan. The boy couldn't sleep after finishing dinner, so he went out to catch a breeze that would make him sleepy, but all he found was a beautiful red-haired woman wearing glasses and reading a book. Looks like I wasn't the only one who didn't sleep in this house. Laughter. I completely lost sleep after defeating some elements for 12 days. I say. The redhead was laughing a lot and was planning a little revenge for later while wondering one thing in her mind. What gives you the strength to be a hero? To save lives without them even knowing about you and what you did for them. Laughs. I just wanted to go out and train, but then I saw horrible scenes of corpses and deaths of people who had no help from anyone, dying out of despair hoping some kind of bogeyman would reach them. One of my inspirations is the pleasure I feel when I save someone. The pleasure I feel is enormous. Issei. The red-haired woman couldn't understand what the man meant and asked him to explain his answer. I'm a hero, so I can always keep the pillar of hope alive. I want to be the one who keeps that flame burning bright in your hearts. Issei. Gremory was starting to understand this, and was also starting to dislike him for some reason, even though the pure smile was slowly bewitching her. You'll end up dying like this. Laughs. I'll die of pleasure if it's to defend what I believe in. Issei. The brown-haired hero laughed a lot as he said goodbye, and the redhead looked at him with enormous strangeness and a few tears in her eyes. Baka. Laughs. Chapter 13. The Crimson Princess and the Hero. Rias's raiding game against Razor went very well in the first minutes. The quality of the Gremory group was much higher than Razor's, and this allowed them to dominate the following moments of the game. Half of the pawns had been eliminated, the 2 rooks were gone, 1 bishop had also been eliminated, and 1 knight had been defeated by the Gremory team. But something mysterious happened when the pace of the battlefield changed after that. What a talented person! Issei. She's a very good strategist. Archer. The remaining bishop used the time razor pieces to use an overwhelming offensive that wiped out Team Gremory. The queen's magic power and the king's flames when fighting directly made everything work fine. The battle ended with all of Gremory's servants defeated while she was on her knees unable to get up, the crimson-haired young woman unable to look up after seeing her absolute defeat at the hands of her future fiancé of the Phoenix clan. How do you think the result was? Issei. I think the victory depended entirely on Ravel Phoenix. Her brilliant mind was able to manage the resources she had to overcome everything despite the difference in strength and risk even the king, even if it is foolish in the eyes of others and Razor as well. She takes credit for the victory by accepting to take risks for the sake of the team. Archer. I think Team Gremory was very good, but they were much smaller in number and it wasn't possible to compensate with quality since Razor had a full team and didn't have every knight, rook, or even a pawn. Issei. Issei and Archer agreed on several points while thinking about the fight and would soon go somewhere. The two were very thoughtful when the fight had been a failure. Days had passed. The crimson-haired woman and heiress of the Gremory house stood in front of a mirror as she looked at a white dress that had been placed on her body, a very beautiful wedding dress. Am I really going to have to get married? Am I going to have to become an incubator? Laughs. The redhead really wanted to cry. She wanted to collapse on the ground, but she soon remembered that she couldn't do it because of her pride and also because of the shame she felt after being defeated and having her future ruined, even with Issei helping her and getting stronger. I don't want to get married, I don't want to. Rias. The heiress of the noble house of demons was almost crying. Her eyes were red and her demonic power had gotten out of control. But she soon returned to normal as she remembered who she was and that she couldn't stay like that even if she entered hell. I'll face this head on. Laughs. Gremory had gone to the wedding hall where the engagement would be officially announced and would be done with a magic circle. The important figures and friends were in that room while everyone faked smiles to keep up the facade. She's destroyed. Akeno. If only we were stronger. Kiba. I'm useless. Kaneko. The Gremory servants were unable to maintain etiquette and lowered their heads in the presence of the woman, who said nothing and didn't want to because she felt very upset and was even in a bad mood seeing what her future main wife would be like. I really don't want to marry her. This woman is beautiful, but she doesn't love me, and I don't want to live with a person who's going to be toxic to me for the rest of my extremely long life. Lifter. Razor was wanting out of this marriage as he looked at Rias and her servants. Ravel was also looking at this with disgust as she thought it would be a compromise that would negatively affect her brother who had been shunted aside by the fear that the hero guild might bring him troublemakers of all races. A kind of hell ceremonial began to say some words until the door opened with great force. The correct word is that it was cut by an extremely powerful holy power from a sword that should be at the top of the ranking. I think I arrived at the right time? The person who had arrived was a young man with brown hair dressed in red and black clothes. This young man was holding a very beautiful sword that emanated a very powerful sacred aura. The powerful weapon was called Caliban, and only one man currently possessed it, Hyoudou Issei. I hope you'll forgive me, since the wedding won't be taking place. I say. The guards tried to approach, but just one swing of his sword was enough for the extremely powerful holy power of the sword to penetrate their bodies and cause them to lose consciousness as low and mid-level demons. Issei laughs. Rias was both happy and worried when she saw that brave hero come to her rescue. The woman didn't know what she was going to say even if she was in this complicated situation. She didn't know if she felt joy for being saved by someone she liked or anger for the worry she was giving in. The other companions also had the same smile. Kaneko and Kiba couldn't stop laughing while Akeno was preparing to fight with her lightning once again upon seeing the entrance of that brown-haired man. Things ended up getting more interesting. A man with a very beautiful and gentle smile had appeared. This man had the same crimson hair color as Rias and looked very similar to the woman, and was soon recognized as Surzek's Lucifer, the strongest Mao that ever existed alongside Ajuka. I hope you'll grant my friend her freedom. I can offer many things in exchange for that. I say. The Mao Lucifer still continued with his smile as he looked at the man in front of him while analyzing him, seeing if he would tremble in front of his enormous power, and the truth was that Issei was holding back so as not to run away in the face of the terrifying aura he felt from the Demon King man. Fight Razor and win to have your proposal accepted. Surzek. The Demon King requested a duel and the brown-haired youth didn't think of refusing, but soon a better idea occurred to him as he took his sword with enormous holy power. Can I make you a better offer? I say. Just don't try to make too much noise. Surzek. Hyoudou stabbed his sword into the ground as he smiled and released the holy power it contained. The young man wasn't hurting anyone, he just wanted everyone to feel the power in his sword so he could take down almost everyone in this place. I challenge everyone who wants to marry Razor. I will fight to ensure that my dear friend marries only the person she loves, and not a loveless marriage. I say. The hero was very serious, and Rias was blushing while Asia felt a little jealous seeing her master being treated like a princess. The people in this room didn't dare to take a step, and not even the groom wanted to take a step even though he could. I have something against you, and let's fight now. A man with long black hair had stood up. This person seemed to have a magical energy like Sona and Seraphal that closely resembled water, and this could identify him as an ancestor or member of the Citri. It looks like Raz Citri, a member of the upper class of demons who fought in the civil war many centuries ago, will be fighting. Laughs. This man froze part of an ocean in the war, and now his power must be even greater. Akeno. This fight is going to be too dangerous. Lifter. The Hyoudou was still smiling when Raz Citri appeared, and soon a Baal with enormous destructive and demonic power appeared. This man was the current Lord Baal and heir to the great house. I'll fight both of them at the same time. I say. The teenager withdrew his sword from the ground as the space transformed into an arena with Lord Baal and Raz Citri prepared for a battle against the young hero who was not to be underestimated. You may begin. Surzek. Surzek gave the signal for both sides to begin, and so they did. Citri created hundreds of high-pressure water tentacles to lash at her enemy's skin, and Baal used the elemental power he had learned to add electrical energy to his allies' blows. Caliban swung several times in that moment, the sword having swung over 1,000 times in just 1 second and generating slashes in the shape of waning moons to end his enemy's offensive. The tentacles of water and the waning moons collided at the same time in a war that caused a huge glow to appear throughout the sand, and the sound of crashing waves was also present. The hero only used one hand to swing while smiling and thinking if he should start using more things. The answer was yes when he saw Raz's next move. The Citri had summoned rain clouds to launch raindrops that were capable of piercing almost anything and destroying everything in just the blink of an eye. The power had been increased, and the technique became even more deadly by having a wind that accelerated the movement of the drops and made them sharper. Useless. I say. Hyoudou held the sword with both hands even though he felt part of his clothes being cut, and made a vertical slash from top to bottom with all his might, cutting as if it were the Greenwich meridian that divided the world into west and east. The power and mastery of slashing with holy energy was able to execute a terrifying technique capable of destroying the clouds completely. Looks like this guy is really powerful. Lord Baal. He talks and does a lot, from what I can see. Raz. The hero decided he didn't want to fight like that anymore and wanted to end the fight quickly, so he decided to hold the sword with both hands to give it even greater cutting power and strength. The blade was reacting to his will and Caliban was ready for another monstrous blow to your enemies. Armor. Baal. The ancestor of Citri chose to form a huge water barrier with some magic circles to enhance the defense. Lord Baal chose to use hundreds of defensive magic circles to stop that blow and all the artifacts that could defend it. It's the end. I say. The sword descended from the sky to the ground again, and this caused the entire line in front of him to be cut. The sky was now open and there were no more clouds nor a blue sky. There was an outside space to watch as the too many of the young man's opponents had their chests slashed at the same time by the power of the sword and its holy power. Does anyone else want to fight for Rias Gremory's hand? Do you want her to marry Razor? I say. No one dared to say that they wanted Rias to marry Razor Phoenix, and the Phoenix clan member laughed a lot when he thought that this red-haired woman would not ruin his life. Rias ran towards the young man who was her hired magician and was also her hero from now on. The woman was very excited to see him fight against the most powerful of the underworld for her. You took too big a risk. Laughs. I had to do this. My duty as a hero doesn't allow me to abandon a friend and princess. I say. Hyoudou was laughing a lot until his lips were covered by the redhead's lips and he was soon stopped by Asia who had also gone to kiss him. The boy was very confused by Gremory's feat. This was to secure the start of our relationship. Laughs. It wasn't fair. Mine was also because of the beginning of the relationship between you and me. Asia. Gremory laughed a lot while the blonde had her cheeks puffed out with anger. The brown-haired young man laughed a lot until he received the notification that the woman was going to move to a place he knew. I'm moving into your house. I want to be really close to my boyfriend now. Laughs. Asia growled at the one who seemed to be her partner, teacher and enemy at the same time. Rias now had many faces for the blonde-haired woman who wanted to monopolize Issei in the Hyoudou's house. I'm not calling. I say. The hero only has a few scratches from the biting rain and nothing more, but he felt dirty and wanted to go home to shower while everyone bothered only to continue the conversation about his power, his appearance, and various things. That doesn't interest us. Issei/Archer. Chapter 14. The Creation of Camp Half-Blood. Issei had received surprising news after defeating the two high-level devils at the meeting. The three factions signed a peace treaty, and the Hero Guild was also accepted as an ally and a force to be reckoned with. The house had also increased in size due to 3 people who had come to live with him. These people were Rias and 2 women from the church named Zenobia and Irina. The young man found out that Irina's Hyoudou was a childhood friend and was scared by it. I thought you were a man, Issei. The boy was slapped by the orange-haired woman and Maria Chiquinhas, because it was a very rude thing to say to a woman and everyone in this residence agreed with it. I'm going out to sort out some things with my friends and associates. I say. I hope you come back soon. Irina. Don't take too long. Asia. Issei left as the 4 of them started looking at each other with murderous eyes and looked like they were about to kill each other after the brown-haired boy left. What do you want with my man? Laughs. Our man. Asia. Asia corrected the redhead so she couldn't monopolize him or do anything like that. I saw him first and even kissed him when I was a kid. Irina. Their food is too good for demons like you. Zenobia. Irina and Zenobia were about to fight the 2 female devils. They could only hold back because Hyoudu's parents were in the house, or there would be a huge bloodbath in the place. Issei was sitting at a table with 3 chairs and he, Chow Chow and Vala were there to talk about a serious topic that they could no longer ignore after what happened in the past few months. These gods are bastards. I say. They abandon the children they do for the world as if it were none of their business, and let them be corrupted by people who only want to use them, people who see them as aberrations and don't even know how to deal with how to create a being with superpowers and divine blood. We've killed many demigods, and it always pains me to see that all they needed was someone to guide them, someone to reach out and teach them what was right. Chow chow. The 3 hero guild leaders were very sad thinking about this, and then thought of some ideas until a new topic emerged for them. I'd like you two to invite some beings of another race to our group. I believe this will strengthen our alliance with the 3 factions and also with the supernatural by not limiting ourselves to just humans. Chow chow. Think about what we're going to do with these demigods soon. I say. I'm going to meet some people who I think are very suitable to join. The 2 quickly left while Chow Chow thought about what he was going to do to deal with the problem of beings with divine blood being corrupted by society, since only 10% of all of them in the world managed to live a semi-normal life, and it was almost normal. The first invitation Hyoudou made was to a demon who was in an isolated territory of the underworld. This person was taller than him and had black hair. The recommendation came from one of his girlfriends. Are you Kokabiel? I say. The man who possessed the aura of a mythical lion turned to him with a smile as he recognized who it was, the boy who had beaten up his father at his cousin Rias's engagement party. It's me. Have I become the target of the hero's elimination? Kokabiel. I came here to invite you to our guild. Rias spoke highly of you, and I wanted to invite you after everything I heard. I say. Bale was surprised to hear that the Heroes Guild was here to invite him to the group, as only humans or acquaintances of the 3 leaders were allowed in, and it seemed they were opening spaces for people of other races to enter. I'm really looking forward to getting in. Kokabiel would not miss the opportunity to increase his status in the underworld as an heir, nor would he miss the opportunity to join this group of men who focused on maintaining the balance and justice of the supernatural. Our headquarters are located at this location. I say. The brown-haired boy had disappeared after handing Bale an invitation card for the organization. Issei had stopped by a few more places to invite Saji Genshuru and Azazel to the organization. He was very interested in bringing the 2 of them along, and even invited Mao Serafal when he discovered her addiction to magical girls. Vala had invited Dulio Gesualdo, Oyuru Nakiri, and a dragon who looked like a delinquent named Bova. This Bova was the son of Tannen, a former dragon king. The 2 met to also extend an invitation to the legendary son Wukong, who was very interested in it and laughed in their faces and accepted the next second, leaving them confused. The organization was now in these ranks. S rank: Tobio, Lavinia, Dulio, Wukong, Serafal, Azazel. Rank A: Issei, Chow Chow, Vali, Kokabiel, Arthur and Biko. Rank B: Kibayuto, Rias, Gremory, Kuroka, Lefei, Akeno and 10 more members. Rank C: Uriu Nakiri, Bova, Irena, Zenobia and more than 100 members. Rank D: had over 1,000 members. The Heroes Guild was expanding considerably as the 3 leaders acted and had now increased to 5 seats as both Dulio and Kokabiel joined the executive meeting after 1 month of service, and also because of the character that surprised the founders. Bale used his strength and determination to make the weaker members and those lacking in spirit become stronger. He helped with training and missions so that everyone returned safely. Gesualdo was a kind soul who helped everyone equally, but he focused his money almost exclusively on helping people in need and was the type who always came very quickly to the aid of those in danger. Issei had met with Yasaka in the meantime, and their conversation was so good that he ended up going to bed for some reason. The young man thought he had been drugged for this and soon discovered that foxes were very charming. I found the solution. Chow chow. A meeting was called with the 5 executives of the Hero Guild. They looked at Chow Chow with great anticipation, since even Kokabiel and Dulio understood how big the problem of the demigods was after giving them several missions in the 3 months they had lasted. Approved. We're going to open a center for the teaching and shelter of demigods. We're going to create 3 institutions. Chow chow. The spear hero was setting up a large blackboard and drawing everything with a magic brush so that everyone could see the solution he had given. The first institution is the Meo Sang Orphanage for children unwanted by their parents, who have run away, or who no longer have parents or relatives. This institution will be left in the hands of Dulio so that he can provide them with all the support and protection they need. Ciao ciao. I accept the promotion. Dulio. The second institution is the Escola Meo Sang, Medium Blood School, so that students with divine blood can feel more at home. They'll learn what it's like to live in a school suited to them and also how to fit into society. I'll assign this role to our associate, Sona Citri, and also to Lavinia. Ciao ciao. Good idea. I say. The third institution is the Half-Blood Training Camp, where demigods will be able to train their powers and learn to control them while undergoing challenges and tests. Serorg will be in charge. Ciao ciao. And we have nothing? Issei/Vala? You're too crazy to run a camp alone. Issei is capable of turning children into Spartans and Vala can drown them all or erase them from existence with one blow of EA. Ciao ciao. That's a lie. I say. Hyoudou wondered if it was a lie, but then he thought it was actually true and he could do just that. I'll agree only because I find these mongrels very irritating. Vali agreed to this because it was better than killing demigods all over the world, because even he didn't like killing these poor beings who were thrown into the world by their divine relatives and then treated in the worst possible way by humanity. I think they need transportation to get to school or our institutions. There's no way to keep them all away from their parents. I say. I've arranged this with Azazel, several magical school buses capable of picking you up all over planet Earth and also dropping you off at your homes. The employees will be members of the 3 factions and the guild. Ciao ciao. The group was more satisfied when they saw that the leader of the Heroes Guild had prepared everything so that the plan of the 3 institutions would be completely successful and finally stop the war they had with the gods. Those idiots abandon their children to the world, but they get angry when we kill them after doing too many stupid things. I say. I killed the son of Poseidon, and the god of the seas was so angry that he sent the Kraken to catch me and kill me. Seorg. I had to kill a son of Helios, and the Sun Titan sent rays of light to try to turn me to dust at the same time. Dulio. Seorg and Dulio were also very angry about the situation of the demigods. The truth is that the entire guild was very angry about the problems that the gods threw at the world and tried to punish them after fixing the mess that they carelessly threw at them. Issei and Vala will convince the children's families to join the school. I'll send Lavinia, Rias, Sona and Akeno to convince other families with other members who are good at social issues. Ciao ciao. The time for the orphanage to be ready was only 1 day, and it was the same time to collect the children who were loose in the world, since Ciao Ciao had already done the intelligence to recognize them along with Ajuka and Azazel. The first brats to be brought in were Luke Castellan, Leo Valdez, Nico D'Angelo, Annabeth Chase, Bianca D'Angelo, Talia Grace, Jason Grace, Hazel, and a few other kids from various pantheons ranging from Greek, Norse, Asian, and even African. The children who were brought were in the orphanage under Dulio's care, and some acquaintances such as Irina, Zenobia and Asia, pledged to help the angel in his mission to care for the orphans. The demigods were only about 10 or 11 years old at most and were confused when they were brought until they felt comfortable seeing that they had food, people who looked like them and caretakers who looked a lot like their parents, or a family. A week in that place and the orphans and those despised by their family didn't want to leave anymore and cried when they said they were going to be kicked out. The people who did that were Issei, Vala and Biko. It was hilarious when I told Luke I was going to kick him out of the orphanage. I say. You should have seen Bianca and Nico's faces when they said they were going to separate the two of them and play for orphanages for mixed-race children. Poor Jason and Talia were crying their eyes out when I said they could only stay here for 2 weeks before returning. They were imposing on me, Biko. Biko was thrown a very long distance by a very angry angel along with Exenovia, Irina and Chow Chow, who looked at the three disgusted by their mediocre jokes on the orphans. So you were the one making these stupid jokes? Dulio. All three of them deserve a beating. Chow Chow. Issei and Vela resisted as much as they could, but Seorg and Tobio also arrived at the same time to help beat up the two who were making various silly jokes after finding out everything. We're not going to do that anymore. Issei biko Vali. The three were forced to apologize to the children they had made cry if they didn't want to be beaten by people who weren't happy with their actions. Intelligence had gathered information from various demigods in the world, and some had great talent, and requested that Vali or Issei be enrolled in the half-blood school or orphanage. Hyoudou had been tasked with convincing a family to enroll their son in the school and camp half-blood. This family had someone who appeared to be the son of the sea god, Poseidon. The descendant of Lucifer had been tasked with catching an orphan who appeared to be the son of a very powerful Norse god, his greatest swordsman, and one of his greatest warriors, Fry. The brown-haired hero hadn't been too keen on visiting the United States to hook up with another annoying brat, and was quite unhappy to see the house which was in some sort of suburb of that wealthy country, and also to see the man who had served him. He was reeking of a disgusting stench. "Who the hell are you and what do you want from me?" The swordsman only raised his hand to give a hard slap to the man who was spitting in his face when he spoke and left him unconscious when he entered the house and found a woman and a child. "I think you guys must be Sally Jackson and Percy Jackson?" I say. The boy was shocked to see his abusive stepfather fall to the ground, and the mother became very scared thinking about the danger her son could be in, and wanted to run away from the place until the mysterious man sat down, while ordering them to sit down too. "Sit down so we can have a proper conversation," Issei. The woman sat down very reluctantly on her extremely worn and food-stained sofa. The mysterious man didn't care because it was a poor place. He was only bothered by the stench of food and wanted to clean this place because of his ADHD. "I have a proposal for you and your son, Issei."
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.